Kinship is how favorites here.
6.0 reconvene open session, procedural business, 5:30 p.m. 6.1 call to order. Board of Trustees are hereby reconvening open session at 5:36 p.m. 6.2 roll call. Trustees to identify themselves by first and last name to formally establish quorum. Dr. Natalie Lindemann, Trustee Area 4.
Dr. Bill Ellinger, Trustee Area 1.
Dan Ridland, Trustee Area 2.
Cindy Gardner, Trustee Area 3.
Gordon Zarate, Trustee Area 5, Burning Springs, Arrowhead Lake, Green Valley.
And we are all in attendance and quorum is established. 6.3 Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Tori.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is 7.0 closed session report. 7.1 announcements of reportable actions taken during closed session. There were none. 8.0 public testimony. 8.1 the public comment period for items listed on this agenda and non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the governing board. The public comment period is administered by state law and is the point in the meeting set aside for members of the public to share their opinions with the board. Open meeting laws do not permit the board to engage in dialogue or answer questions, though it may not take action on non-agenda issues raised at the public comment period. The board, for example, may refer any matter to the superintendent for review or take action to direct staff to place the matter of business on a future agenda. Protocols for speakers. Any person who wishes to address the governing board on agenda and non-agenda items within the subject matter of their jurisdiction must complete a green speakers form and submit it to the executive secretary to the superintendent before the meeting is called to order. Individual speakers are allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda item. The board limits the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. Speakers who have complaints against board members or staff are encouraged to seek resolution to those complaints by using the Room of the World Unified School District written complaint procedure rather than orally addressing them at a meeting. The board will not respond to such complaints until the applicable complaint procedure BPAR 1312.1 has been followed and reached the board level. Where a complaint concerns a district employee identifiable by name, position, or other facts, the board cannot respond until proper written notice has been given to the employee pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. Decorum. The governing board is interested in the ideas and opinions of all stakeholders and endeavors to incorporate community views into its deliberations and decisions. At the same time, it must be able to conduct its business in an organized and efficient manner, free from material disruption. Therefore, in accordance with Board Bylaw 9323 and Government Code Section 54957.9, audience members may not disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of this meeting. Open meeting laws do not confer any privilege or protection for expression beyond that otherwise provided by law. The public's understanding and cooperation are appreciated. 8.2, public comments. The first I have Kristen McGregor representing VOE. The topic is heat in classrooms. Kristen, if you could come up, you have 3 minutes and it will show on here. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Kristen McGregor. I am the parent of a first grader and a fourth grader at Neola Elementary School, and I'm also on the board of our PTA. When I decided to speak tonight, I began by looking up facts and statistics regarding excessive heat in the classroom setting. But then I realized you didn't need me to tell you that attention to and retention of materials decreases by 20% beginning at 80 degrees, or that the optimal temperature for academic performance is 68 degrees inside the classroom. We know that it is harder to focus when it is hot, as we have all experienced this on a daily basis during the summer months. For example, we have the windows open and the fans on today, and it's only 70 degrees outside. One of the arguments that we have heard as we complain about the heat in our classrooms is that there's never been air conditioning in the classrooms in this district. But I'd like to point out that temperatures are hotter now than they were 10 years ago or 20 years ago when I attended River Rural School District. And we used to start after Labor Day. We are starting earlier every year. If we are going to continue to begin our school years this early August, then adjustments to the learning environments need to be made. The temperatures at VOE the first month of school not only affected our well-being of our children where they were learning, but they are also at a risk of the safety and well-being for the students and the staff. The PTA at VOE worked to make that our students and staff comfortable, but it is not the responsibility of the parents. The safety and well-being of every person that works or studies in a building that is part of the school district is the responsibility of the school board and administration. And in the past month, they failed to protect our students. The PTA began monitoring and documenting the temperatures inside the VOE and reached out to the district office in order for a solution to the problem. When the first picture of a temperature of 90 degrees in a classroom at MPH was given to us, we knew that this was a district-wide problem. The motto for the state PTA is every child, one voice, and today we are speaking for every child in the Ringwood School District. We are requesting that a procedure be put into place that monitors the temperatures inside the classroom grounds and reports it to the district. It should not be taken angry parents for the district to acknowledge the problem. We need this procedure to be set a protocol in the event of extreme temperatures, which is above 80 degrees during the summer or below 60 degrees in the winter. We want to know the steps that we take to ensure the safety of our students and staff. During the heat wave this past month, schools in San Diego County and LA County were able to switch to a modified schedule. If we had a procedure in place to monitor our temperatures in our classrooms, we could have done something similar. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Next, we have Sam Johnson. He's representing VOE and also speaking about heat and air systems.
Hi, my name is Sam Gregory. I'm a father to 8-year-old identical twin girls from the 3rd grade at BOE. My daughters are both on IEPs, are immunocompromised, and some for chronic lung disease and asthma, and one of my daughters requires oxygen to sleep at night. In 2019, before the pandemic trend to move to the mountain, my family and I moved here so we could give our kids a slower paced, better life. Air quality and climate control have always been a concern for us because of my daughter's health. So when we purchased our home, we had a central HVAC and humidifier system put in, so we could filter the air as needed. Although our house is old and has never had such a system before, it was not difficult to have installed, nor was it cost prohibitive. In the location that has extreme heat in summer, extreme cold in winter, altitude and barometric pressure causing air quality in an unhealthy range many days of the year, not to mention smoke from wildfires, central HVAC systems seem like an obvious requirement for our schools. And when I hear reports that the reason why we cannot have central HVAC systems installed is due to exposing to mold, asbestos, lead paint, and other hazardous materials, I'm concerned, not just for children like mine, who have underlying health issues, but for all children. That compounded with kids passing out of classrooms due to heat exhaustion, educators teaching with lights off and curtains drawn, and classrooms that feel like ovens, tells me that we need the climate control in our schools now more than ever. And as scientists prove to be correct, each summer will continue to be hotter than the next. This problem is simply not going to go away. Pandemic money was appropriated to make schools safe to learn, and one of the top things RIM could have done with the funds was improve ventilation and climate control to combat not only COVID-19, but the extreme heat. Our schools should be air conditioned, and brought into the 21st century. And frankly, I'm shocked that none of these vital upgrades were completed over the last 2+ years during the pandemic. HVAC systems aside, the district could have been much more resourceful and creative in helping students during the extreme heat days that we just experienced. We could have set up shade areas using easy up tents, had cooling stations. Physical education should have been modified. In the same way we have allocated snow days, what about heat days? There have been no, there should have been communication and transparency from our schools. We should have been alerted as to the extreme temperatures in our buildings so that we had the option to keep our children home on those days. As parents cannot make wise decisions on behalf of our children if we don't have information, and the district is losing trust with parents by failing to communicate. Swamp coolers and portables are fine, but those feel like putting Band-Aids on problems. Please make the needed repairs to our buildings and upgrade the electrical panels and install the needed HVAC systems to cool our schools, filter the air, and keep our children safe so they can learn, which is the entire point of school. Thank you for your time.
And Julie's also going to be representing both VOE and MPH regarding heat in the classrooms.
Hello. I'm Glenn McDermott. I am PTA president at MPH and VOE right now. The temperatures at the Rim District schools have gotten out of hand. Multiple times over the past month, classrooms at VOE and MPH have been over 90 degrees while students were inland trying to learn. On September 1st, all VOE classrooms were given a thermometer by PTA in order to track temperatures because it seems there is no system in place to track or manage extreme heat indoors. There's currently no mitigation in place at the schools if there are heat-related issues, and nobody is taking ownership of this, not the district, not the county, not the state, and not OSHA. At VOE, PTA provides and fills a water dispenser in the staff room because the district has not installed a water station. PTA has donated 2 small countertop ice machines in order to chill the water they provide. PTA spent $80 on ice and otter pops to try to cool the students down through alternate means. Kindergarten has no water station, so again, PTA moms take Gatorade jugs home to wash and fill. We pulled blackout curtains from unused rooms and put up easy extra shade on the playground, since all we have is a small area and limited equipment. How do I know? Because I spent most of the days at VOE trying to make heat tolerable for our teachers and students. Because these people are my friends and people in our community. Throughout the heat wave, PTA has secured donations of bags of ice from Goodwin's and delivered them to the 3 refrigerators on campus and this more special education classroom. We've cleaned and filled ice, delivered large coolers with water and cups for kinder every morning. Monitored classrooms, temperatures, going to the school and messaging teachers over the course of the day. Created a school-wide water day to get students out of hot classrooms and cooled off. Most recently, we were asked by the custodian to help secure water delivery to the portable classrooms because it takes up a lot of the day. What did the district do during this time? They sent emails and ordered items that were not immediately installed. So this is frustrating to us. We need better for our kids, better access to water, more shade, and AC in the classrooms. But most of all, I feel we need better communications. We're here for the same reason you are, our kids, but we're not paid them or volunteers. We've already put in 1,200 hours this year and are very ready to put in more. Some last minute thoughts. We don't have screens at VOE because the kids broke in and we are told that teachers can go ahead and open the windows, even if there's bugs. Because that shouldn't be a problem. We find it a problem. These new AC units vent out the doors in the same areas these kids broke into. And to keep the classrooms cool, we sacrifice safety. The front door is open, the side doors are open. So we need to do something, and it needs to be before the bond. We need to look outside the box and do something different, and then look long term. Thanks.
Kimberly Chefs, also VOE students, excessive heat temperatures inside the classroom.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Chefs, and I am the mother of 2 students enrolled in Valley of Enchantment Elementary. I would like to address my concerns with the excessive temperatures inside the classrooms at VOE and the lack of implementation of the short-term solution plan as outlined by Dr. Kirker. It came to my attention on Wednesday, August 31st, that it was 90 degrees inside my oldest daughter's 2nd grade classroom. I was on campus and saw that classes were being conducted with the lights off and my daughter's ice pack from her lunchbox out as a way to attempt to cool her down throughout the day. That evening, I sent an email to Dr. Ferger voicing my concerns along with multiple pictures of thermostats from several classrooms. On Thursday, September 1st, an email from Dr. Ferger went out to REM families outlining a short-term and long-term solution plan to address the issues. While I understand that the long-term solution plan will take time, my major issue lies with the implementation of the short-term solution plan. At the time of Dr. Ferger's original email on September 1st, we were in a heat advisory for the following Thursday, September 8th. Not one of the items listed on Dr. Ferger's short-term solution was implemented until 1 full week later on the last day of the heat advisory, coincidentally the day after a BOE staff member passed out and was taken via ambulance due to heat exhaustion. In order of Dr. Ferger's outlined short-term solution plan, there were no swamp coolers sent to BOE. There were 4 portable AC units delivered on Friday, September 2nd, the day after Dr. Ferger's original email was sent out. Those 4 units sat on our stage until the following Thursday. I asked our interim principal on several occasions when they would be installed, and I sent several emails asking for updates on the installation. I heard nothing. Item number 3 was to have large swamp coolers ordered for large spaces on campus, such as the library and cafeteria. BOE received none. I would like to note that I have a timestamp photo of our cafeteria reaching 94 degrees during this week. Item number 4 was that principals were to schedule rotational cycles in the computer lab for temporary relief for our students and staff, as it is the only room with AC. Neither of my children had a rotation until I brought the issue up again with our interim principal. He stated that he would send an email out reminding staff that it was available for use. That's a far stretch from having an actual documented scheduled rotation to ensure our children were getting at least a few minutes of relief each day. While we have obviously entered into a cooler season, this problem will be back. I want to know that the school has a plan in place to implement immediately before the issue arises again, not allowing our children to sit in 90-degree classrooms while emails are being sent out to appease parents, but not actually following through with immediate actions. Thank you for your time.
(8.3) RTA and CSE representatives. Mrs. Markovich.
Ngozi couldn't be here today, so as Vice President is stepping in, but she did write a statement. In the last couple of weeks, we appreciate the portable ACs and coolers provided to our classrooms as a temporary solution to rising temperatures in the coming years. But we need to continue to keep a permanent cooling system in mind for our schools as students need comfortable environments to learn effectively. And I know you guys know. We would also like to highlight the class overages at each site. It is past the 20-day mark, which is by the contract that you expect. And we have secondary classes that are beyond class maximums, elementary classes that are beyond 30, and special education classrooms that are beyond their rim, making it difficult to address the needs of individual students. We need to equalize the class numbers to our contractual ratios to teach effectively. Substitute coverage is another issue that is revolving and needs to be addressed with the raising of sub-pay to be competitive with surrounding districts. If other districts are paying more than us, it incentivizes workers to choose higher pay, especially with inflation and the rising cost of living. $150 a day is not enough to live on, yet alone make them want to come up the mountain to work. Along the line of substitutes, our substitute teachers need more support and training when coming to our school sites, as we've had several instances of substitute teachers not knowing how to handle certain situations consistent with district policies. Our substitutes need support if we expect them to stay with us. We look forward to our continued collaboration with the district and the solutions we will come up with as a team. Thank you. And on a personal note, I just want to say with on my own note, I just want to say that when it comes to our hiring at management and admin positions, I feel like we've hit the jackpot. I feel like people were thrown in with tons of problems that needed to be solved right away and have stepped up to the challenge.
Thank you, ma'am. CSEA, anybody? None. 9.0 governing board members reports and announcements. 9.1 governing board members. We'll start with Jordan Scott.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone who's come out to speak this evening. I appreciate it. I know we all do. I will say and speak to what I've done since we've known this has been an issue. We did go up for Measure A in 2020. This was outlined as one of our major needs for our room district. Unfortunately, 80% of bonds did not pass statewide in that election, ours included. So we know that this has been an issue that we need to address. I have been in touch with County Supervisor's Office on this in the past. We will be having a new county supervisor, Supervisor Rao, who will be definitely hearing from us more. But I have been reaching out to, during our last government affairs meeting, which was just last Tuesday, I was able to speak with Assemblymember Thurston Smitty Smith's office, who is very interested in this issue from a safety perspective, knowing that teachers and school sites propping open doors to find some type of relief from heat is a safety concern, especially with the rise of armed intruders coming onto campuses. So they are well aware, and that follow-up email has been sent to them as well. I have not heard back from Assemblymember Smith's office yet, but we'll be following up again. I also sent an email to our state senator, Senator Rosalicia Ochoa, who is a former school board member in Yucatan Mesa, and did get a response. I outlined all of the issues that we see this issue as, and it's an equity issue, it's a health issue, it's a cost barrier, and it is a safety issue. And I outlined specific examples in each of those areas. We know from an equity perspective, even if we are rotating students in and out of classrooms, that's taking away time from other districts that don't have to do that because they have central cooling and AC. I talked about the cost barriers and issues. When we went for Measure A, it was estimated it would cost in excess of $20 million to put AC in every single classroom across our district. And that's because of all of the rigorous requirements that would be required to retrofit these old buildings to meet new requirements that just need to be upgraded during the time when that comes. And I outlined that we've been pursuing bonds. We have been using COVID dollars to the best of our abilities to improve air filtration. But unfortunately, grants that are available are extremely competitive and require matching dollars. The matching dollars part is the issue. Most districts can only meet matching dollar requirements if they have local money in place, such as a bond measure. So we are hoping that with the public support, we can find long-term solutions. But I did outline all of the things that we are doing, all the things that we want to do, and all the reasons that it's an issue for not just our district, but districts across the state. Many school districts, like in beach communities, don't have AC, and they're facing the same issue. I did receive a response from Senator Ochoa's office that she is particularly interested in this issue, and we have been opening those conversations and will continue them. So this is going to be an advocacy effort from my personal point. I'm sure other school board members as well are interested in participating in that. But this is not an issue that, unfortunately, is a quick or easy fix, but one that we are willing to take on and have been trying to take on. I really do lament the not passing of Measure A, and I'm happy to talk to anyone about this. My email is available. If you'd like to have a chat, I can tell you, we can probably work on an advocacy letter as well that we could ask for community support on to help send to legislators. The state legislative session is over right now, which means that those elected officials are available to chat with us so that they can go back to the next legislative session to fight for us. So that's what I'm hoping for. That's my major update from this time. Again, we are available to chat. So please, I would like to keep that conversation going.
Thank you, Jordan. William.
Well, I want to thank, and I have to admit my prejudice. thank the parents of the best elementary school on the mountain for being here tonight. No offense, ladies, who have your other schools, but BOE is an incredible place with incredible creativity and giftings and workers and staff and volunteers and students, and just a very special place. That said, we actually have been working with Julie to schedule a time with the trustees. We actually were working on this even before the heat rose. And the purpose of the time with trustees is to be able to have conversation, which we really can't have here in a board meeting. And so that has been scheduled right now for Wednesday at 4:30, September 21. We're doing that in the afternoon. And the goal, the reason why I reached out to Julie to try to do that was to say, what's the time that might fit with PTA? It's also an open meeting that anybody can come to. It's not just limited to parents from BOE PTA. It will be open to anyone. And so we will be promoting that online as well. But that Deanna Riddlin and myself will both be there. And it'll be an opportunity. We both represent Crestline. And Dr. Fricker will be there as well. And so it'll be an opportunity for open conversation. And I hope you will help spread the word on that. Because these are the kinds of things that we can actually discuss openly there, where we really can't discuss back and forth here. I do want to say this, though. I want to thank Dr. Fricker for trying to do what she could as quick as you could. You get some AC units there, to get some swamp coolers there. I can only imagine the challenges of trying to get the work all done. And I appreciate the fact that you actually moved units that were supposed to go into the district office and you moved them over to BOE. And thank you for doing what you could to try to address that issue. And I appreciate the concern of our parents. And I want to join with what Jordan is saying, and unfortunately, it was before I ever even got on the board, I was encouraging this board to go for a bond, and that failed. We have to come up with a way to get larger funds available to our schools. This last year, we were looking at this in addition to just ventilation issues. We did a full study, and that study comes up with over $20 million of cost. And I'm sure that Jenny would be willing to share those reports with anyone who wants to see that and what we're looking at. We believe this is a need that has to be addressed. And particularly, I have to say, in light of what has happened this summer again, or I should say at the end of the school year last year in Texas, this is not just a health issue, but this is a safety issue. We everywhere in this school district are keeping doors open in order to provide better ventilation. But that means that's an unsecure room and an unsafe place. So the issues are much bigger, and we are trying to work on that. I also want to say that I had the privilege of being at the Career and College Fair. Stephanie, excellent job. I thought I saw you back there somewhere. There it is. Excellent job. We have some great students up here with a lot of gifts and abilities, and there's a lot of different tracks of education that we need to help those students as they look to their own futures. And so I appreciate all the work that was done and all the groups that came out to present to our students here college career and college opportunities. And again, thank you for the best parents of the best elementary school for being here today.
Thank you, Dr. Visit.
First, I do want to thank everybody who had the courage to come up to the podium and advocate for their kids. Just want to let you know, I've lived it as well, but not to the extreme, because it has gotten hotter and hotter over the years. I've been a classroom teacher at Ramp here, and have been in those unconditional unconditioned classrooms where I had to make the choice of, do I have the doors open where there's, after hearing about Columbine and other school shootings and the like, I'm thinking doors open, trying to get some air in here, having fans, students can't hear me over the fans, being right across from the bathroom, hearing every kind of flush you can imagine, and having to do what I can, teaching math in the afternoon. Students have full stomachs, they've been up since 7, coming into a hot classroom, naturally they want to put their heads down. You start the first couple of weeks like that, and they get into the habit of this is what I do in this classroom. And it's a tough one. We do not have enough resources to be able to do everything we can to be able to cool the classrooms, and it isn't all classrooms that need to be cooled. We do have quite a few classrooms that do have air conditioning, which comes stark contrast to the classrooms that don't. There's also positioning in classrooms. Some are like they're in an oven with having the windows right there and the sun beating down, and others are in a naturally better location where they are able to get air. We need to do better. And when I first started on the board, it was something that I was discussing with COVID. It kind of got away from us. I am so incredibly grateful for you folks to come out and speak up. I am also incredibly grateful for the efforts that the district office did put together a couple weeks ago, because that's a huge, huge effort that hasn't been made in the future. And it is a start. It's not a finish. And I think the conversations that we can continue next week are going to help. We all need to work together, because the fact of the matter is the money that we spend in one area is money that we're not spending in another, and we have to make hard choices, and we need to do the best we can for our students. We have an awesome community. We have a lot of passion. If we can harness what we have in the community, bring our community in on the amazing things that our students are doing and are capable of doing, we have a synergy that we can create. And I have confidence working together, we can solve this problem. I hesitate to wait to see what happens with the next bond, because this is something that we somehow need to address, but I don't have the answers. And I think working together, we can come up with solutions. And I know that as a community, we want to do better by our students. So my purpose here is to make sure you know that you're being heard. I don't have an answer. We don't have answers right now, but we need to work together. We're going to be able to do something better for our students if we can have those open lines of communication, have honesty with each other, and be able to determine what we can do. I'm not going to just say in terms of being able to have the communication, there hasn't been dishonesty. I don't want to imply anything there. Just being able to have, let me say, more candid conversations in terms of what we're dealing with, and be able to, we're going to have to make the decisions here. That is, we signed up for making those tough decisions by running for board. And so we're up for it. We have a great board here, but we have to be able to make sure that we are making wise choices with the limited resources that we have to make sure we're supporting our staff and our students. Changing topic a little bit is, I was at the College and Career Center fair yesterday. It was amazing. It was lovely. And I've been able to spend some time on campuses, and our staff is doing a phenomenal job, and our students are doing great things. And it's lovely to walk around campus and to see the smiling faces, to see the joy, and to know that despite the weather, there are still great things that are going on. And so there's a lot to be hopeful for, and there's a lot of great things that are going on. And we have some great traction right now, and I do have high hopes for the rest of the school year. But we can't get away from thinking about what happens when the temperature rises again. I had something else I was going to talk about. I think I'll wait till next board meeting to talk about goals. Just that right now, I see what's happening as far as our school district, and like Amanda had mentioned, we've had some amazing hires. I have a lot of hope for the future. We've been able to fill open spots with great talent. So the future is looking really bright. We have also talent returning. I see Jim Zimmer. I see, Heather Dominguez there, along with Stephanie Phillips, and I'm not going to give on names. We have a great administrative team. We have such energy and enthusiasm already within our district, and we're adding to it. So there's a lot to look forward to. But there's also, we can do better. We have our work cut out for us. And I just want to thank everybody for stepping up, putting in the 1,200 hours of service already for at the OEPTA. And I know there's been a lot of effort in other school sites. You guys are awesome, and we will need to keep on having those efforts by all of us to continue to do best by our kids. And just thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Cindy Gardner?
So, yeah, my kids went through Grandview, whose awesome windows and use an award-winning use of cement, ooh, yay, created really hot classrooms. Mrs. Ashley's room would reach 98 degrees. Those windows didn't work and they were super small. And then the second floor didn't have any airflow because there were no doors to the outside. So, and then you get to MPH and there are certain classrooms like Jordana was saying in the A building and the B building that have the sun where you just, it's hideous in those classrooms. And I do know being on PTA, you go in those classrooms to do your little job and it's really, really horrendous. High school, yes, there's classrooms that have better airflow, and then there's the classrooms that are saunas. And so my kids have experienced exactly what you're going through. Does that make it right that this has been an ongoing issue? No, I think that I wasn't on the board for the planning of Measure W, which was the last one that had passed. But there were a lot of great needs that were addressed with that bond, and I think we did. The money went far, and the reason why the money went far is the state had a school facilities bond that they had sold, so we were able to get matching funds. Everything was matched dollar for dollar, so it lengthened the amount of money that we had, and we were able to do more projects with that. So I think because we've had a track record of success, we're like, oh yeah, we could measure A, we're gonna pound the pavement, and we did. We had a great game plan in terms of being super specific about what those dollars were going to be spent for. We followed a consultant's advice. We did all the planning, we did all the work, and we felt just shy of passing that. So discussions, not on a formal basis, began of, okay, we need to do some self-reflection. What do we need to do? What do we need to do to get over the hump? We know the climate of that time. Taxpayers were kind of sending a message, we don't want to pay anymore in assessments and taxes. So with that, if we decide to go for another bond, which is going to be up on the discussion in the next couple of months, formally, how do we tell our story better? How do we tell that story of our aging facilities and the needs for our kids that are going to graduate, and so many of them come back and become contributing citizens to our communities, and then they turn around and raise their kids. And we're looking at, second, third, fourth, fifth generation on the mountains. So how do we tell this story to those in our community that might want to resist passing the bond? And I think that in self-reflection, I think that we could have done a better job to utilize parent groups, to utilize the student groups, to actually bring their voices on the trail with us, to talk to their experience, to talk to their experience on their campuses and say, who's going to say no to a 6-year-old that says, I love my teacher and I love my school and I love what I do. I love troll night and I love this, but it's really hot in my classroom and my troll hair kind of faded because it was so hot. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you tell your truth, when you tell your story, it's powerful. And I think that we needed to do a better job in telling our story, utilizing the different organizations that serve our community. And not just parents and students, but also some community organizations like Rotary, who do so much for our campuses. So I think we need to do a little bit better job of gathering this team together to tell the story in a much more compelling manner. So that's one piece. The other piece is that we definitely, I'm on a county Education Advocacy Committee and the delegate on the California State Board Association Delegate Assembly. And part of that is pushing the state platform for both CSBA and the county of continuing the facilities discussion and to push for a state bond, a school facilities bond on the state level. Because all school districts need to be able to tap in. Think of it as a grant. We need to have our matching dollars to maximize the projects that we can do. Somebody mentioned the COVID money. COVID money isn't as much as it was a lot, not saying it wasn't, but it would not have covered the $20+ million, plus some of that money is earmarked for curriculum for expanded, kind of like lost learning interventions, COVID expenses, the safety stuff that we had to put in, which was super expensive, the testing alone, the contact tracing, thank God that was rescinded, but just yesterday, I mean, that's a lot, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars that, if not millions, right? No, hundreds of thousands of dollars that we spent out of COVID money. So it's not just what we could do with the present HVAC systems that are in place to make them function better. But in terms of a mass redo and upgrading in electrical, some of the HVACs or some of the older schools like this school is going to be challenging because you're going to run into the original walls of the school. It's sort of like the Winchester House. And so you know it's going to be an issue, and when we start the project, and as the walls are opened up and we run into those issues, we know that budget may expand. Hopefully Paul will do it and he'll come in under budget like he did last time, because I like Paul. And so it's just that we know what it's going to take. So we have to do a better job on that long-term solution if that is what the board chooses to do. The other part is that we do need to advocate harder. One of the things that we saw last week when we saw at the Crestline and Lake Arrowhead Municipal Advisory Committee meeting, the meeting that they hold together, is that passing of the baton from Supervisor Rutherford to Supervisor Rao. That is one avenue that we need to explore. You're right, we need to have a little chitty chat with the supervisor and discuss what are the safety avenues, whether it's a homeland security that's a community member brought up as maybe going that route. That's a path that we really need guidance on, I think, with the county supervisor. Is there a tap into that? I don't know. But just saying is that there's advocacy at the state and the county level that we will continue to do. We're not the only school district, but I think if we talk enough, I mean, because God only knows I talked a lot about transportation, and now transportation is not just that I did it alone. I'm saying that when your voice is joined with other voices in the state of California, you make change. Transportation, which has never been paid for and covered, is now in the budget. It's now being covered a little bit, some, at least better than nothing. So your advocacy works. You just have to keep at it, and you have to have, and it has to resonate with the legislators at the right time and place. I know that stinks to hear, but you just have to be the broken record and talk about facilities over and over and over again. And they're not deaf to our situation and other school districts. We just have to overcome their objections to giving money specifically earmarked for facilities and not out of the education pot of money. Because we don't want them to take money from that pot, which pays for our teachers and our programs. We don't want to steal from Peter to pay Paul. So we really need to have that focused conversation. So yeah, we are continuing to work. It's not like we haven't stopped working on this issue. It's just trying to find the avenues that we can get that money to be able to cover all schools equally and equitably. On another note, because I'm gonna change paths, my husband and I were invited to participate in the college and career fair. My husband, Stephanie, thinks that he thinks that we are completely out of place, and like one of these things don't belong to the other. But we had several students that really wanted to pursue special makeup effects. And we're like, really? You want to do this? You want to be all achy? And they were like, yeah. And so we gave them some great tips and some avenues for schools to go to. And we're going to be sending a list of special makeup effects and makeup schools to Beth Hallmark at the counseling office, and also Charlene Nicholas, the drama teacher. So that if a kid ever wants to get into special makeup effects and take over Chucky for us, they can do it. They know how. So appreciate the invite as always. I'm excited to be involved in Spots University College Admissions Night. October 4th is going to happen, and then College Health class will begin shortly. So I'm really excited about all of that. And then now I'm going to shut up because I know I've taken a long time and I talk too much. So thanks. So just know that we are continuing our work. It just, you don't get to see everything like Jordan's amazing emails or my meetings or Jordana's, you know, she's a little in the community. So you heard. So anyways, thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Again, thank you, parents. I know it's not comfortable to get up there and speak for some of you, and I know it's not for me, but I'm sitting here. I want to kind of highlight, which they have, like, we've known this has been an issue for a really long time, and frankly, it's embarrassing that we don't have immediate solutions for it. We have what we wanted as long-term solutions, and what we needed was finances for that. But we can't use that as an excuse for not having something right now. And what Dr. Fricker put in place was, why did it take this long for somebody to even put something in place, right? So now, luckily, we're gonna have some relief for a few months, and I'm hopeful that before it gets hot again in the summer, that there is a plan. I heard creative solutions from you guys already that kind of seemed to, maybe they were common sense, maybe people thought hard about them, I'm not sure, but we should have came up with those things. There should be a response plan, the way we have with the snow, with excessive heat, period. That is what we can hopefully do today. And then we can use your help when we do go for a bond. There is no other way to get $20 million. There's no other way. So we need your help, we need your voices, we need support from you guys when that happens. But I did not miss hearing that now with zero money, what do we do better? And that's what we need to do, period. I have, my family touches 3 different schools in this district, LEE, NPH, and high school. My husband is standing out in the field all day long at LEE and comes home dehydrated and grumpy and grouchy, and it's awful. And my kids are in the classroom sweating too, just along with you, and my little student athletes are not being taken care of either here. I'm hearing you, I understand. I think that sometimes when what we need long-term doesn't pan out, we forget that we have things that we can do in the immediate, and that just requires creativity, dedication, focus, and coming up not only with the plan, but making sure that there's follow through on that plan. Because, we might be able to order 17 things, and if the people who are supposed to be putting those in place and utilizing them aren't being held accountable for it, then what is it? Cool, there's 12 air conditioners sitting in a locked door somewhere, right? So I appreciate you bringing this to light. I hope you do go time with trustees, so more of those creative ideas can come out. We definitely share them amongst ourselves, we share them with the rest of management, so we can get a plan in place before summer happens. And again, it's embarrassing that we didn't have that ahead of time. Now we have the time to plan for it, so thank you. It's been really fun to see new candidates come in and new people start in new positions in a lot of the schools, from assistant, associates, principals, really talented, experienced individuals who seem passionate and excited to do work. It feels like a big change happens. A lot of administration turns over, and there just seems to be a new level of excitement, and fresh eyes are always good. You went through school here myself, so I love the tradition. I love, people that grew up here, went to school here and teach here. That's definitely who I want to be staying here and promoting, but having outside fresh eyes is also exciting too. And I think we have a good balance of that right now throughout our district. So I'm very excited that athletics are going here, the school year is going, and it feels like a pretty good flow. And finally, I appreciate you all again for coming out. I know it's board meetings can be boring. So I'm glad you came. Thank you. 9.2 Superintendent Dr. Fricker.
Thank you very much. So to start my comments with a couple announcements and a couple thank yous, and then I do want to address the heat issue on the back end. It is the forefront of what we have been working on here at the district office, so I want to end with that because I think it's the most important. First of all, I know that we, at the end of the agenda, we're going to be welcoming in our new Rowan High School principal. Thank you for coming this evening, and so that's really exciting for us to set the leadership at RIM and make sure that we bring in the next talent. Super excited to have you come on board and just start. Tomorrow will be a small reception here at the high school to welcome you officially, have your staff know names, faces, and give you just a meet and greet before you just, start midway through the sprint. So don't envy you by any means, but thank you, sir, for coming. We want to welcome you tomorrow. And Tori, I want to thank you for just stepping in and carrying RIM for the start of the school year. Just give her a round of applause. Thank you for that, and making sure that nothing was missed at the start of the school year, and then we will have that successful transition. So thank you for that. I just want to just acknowledge the Sheriff's Department, the Twin Cities Sheriff's Department, and also the San Bernardino County Office of Education, who provided 10 of our RIM high school teachers this month with $250. Amanda, you were one of them. Is there any other one? Any other teachers? No. There. So anyway, that was fantastic. They have a program that picks high schools and donates money to the teacher directly for whatever that teacher wants to spend on, and that's their way of showing how valued our teachers are across the county, and we're so gracious. Tori, thank you, and the whole high school staff again. I know Stephanie, you were in on that to make that whole event happen. They printed signs from our print shop. They really made a great showing and celebration for those teachers and those staff to receive the support. So thank you all for all of your efforts. Speaking of you, Stephanie, your college career fair was very exciting. I got to speak to many people, and the booth set up were tremendous for our students. And all of the talented students that go through, we hope that they go on to their college and career of their choice. I want to encourage that. So thank you, Stephanie, for all your efforts making that happen. Went to the football game, and that was exciting as well. Hope to see everyone out there at the next football game. Attended PTA Mountain Council, and then also the Joint Mountain Councils for Emergency Response, just to make sure that we advocate for the heat in both of those areas, and we do our part to let our staff members know and our students know, but also our parents know and our community members know what an issue the heat really is, heat and cooling of the heat conditions in the summer months, but also having heat, sustainable heat throughout the winter months when it is cold, and it is equally as cold in some of our classrooms, depending on where you are and what building you're in. So we do understand that. On to health, safety, and weather. It really has, in my, I think, turn on once here. So it really has become a primary focus to have both short and long range goals in order to achieve what we want to achieve on the facility side. And we know that that's heat, air quality, the actual air that you breathe, and air conditioning, and also that creating that safe perimeter to our schools. And that has been a primary focus. We met with Sheriff Lupierre, and who did an inspection of all of our school sites just to monitor where we have vulnerable points. So that's important. And definitely having those doors open exposes us to additional vulnerabilities that we don't want to for both our staff and our students. And that's probably the biggest fear we carry, as to how do we keep the people that we value the most the safest. So having his report, looking at that on the facility side, I know that working with Jenny Hamlin and business department, and also Jim, working to see how do we shore some of those things up with the things that we can do, and then how do we push the things that we need long range solutions for, and then provide for that. So really that team of individuals on the M&O side and the business side, including risk management, I really tasked with that to them, saying, listen, what can we do in the short term? This is an immediate need. How do we get coolant systems, swamp cool? I don't care what you buy. I said, here's a pot, like here's enough money, just buy whatever we can with it, shoring up those COVID dollars immediately that we can slate for it. And what can we purchase immediately? Some of the difficulties are in the transport chain, getting it here, which is a difficulty that we can't control. Well, I can accept that, but at least we have the initiative in the heart and the mind to get as much as we can, as much as possible to you as quickly as possible. The other thing is those mid-range decisions. So I know that the board has talked a lot about, yes, we are discussing very seriously about going out for a bond. That's a long-range goal. That's a long-range plan. I did communicate that out to the community, because we will need community support for that. And we will have to have both an internal and external kind of campaign going on for that effort. But that is long range. But what if that long range plan doesn't happen, like it didn't happen with Measure A? What are we going to do? Right? You can't count on something that you don't have already. So in the interim, we've been working at looking at contracts. I know that Jenny and I have been. AMLC is one of those contracts that we're parting ways with, which will divert COVID dollars that were already predispositioned and spent somewhere else. We can divert them to what are the current electrical panels looking like? Where can we add electrical panels where it is feasible? That's not going to be equitable across our district. And in this case, whatever we can do, we need to do, whether it's equitable or not, because some person, staff member, student is going to be in that classroom that's going to receive the help that they need in that classroom. And then we'll work on the next set of classrooms. And then we'll work on the next set of classrooms. So I understand that we have the short term of just mobilizing whatever we can in this short period of time to react to the immediate response and the immediate crisis of the heat in the past couple of weeks. But we also are working on, through our risk management lens, more detailed notifications to our principals. How do we help our principals know in this heat index or this weather condition or this air quality AQMD report, this is what we do. These are the steps that we do and put in. Other districts have those. Coming from a different district, you know, understanding we need to develop those here. It doesn't matter for me where we start, right? Wherever you start, whatever you inherit, that's what you inherit, right? It matters where we go and what we do and how we get to the end point. And so we have a lot of different zigzag steps in between to get to our end point. And so some of it's not always going to be easy. Some of it's maybe not going to be pretty, maybe not be equitable across all of our school sites, but we have to do what we can with the means that we have. And we have to divert some of our means to make more sense of how we meet those immediate needs. And if we can walk away from a contract that we can satisfy differently, we'll still satisfy the requirement of it, but we can satisfy it differently and pull out some savings in order to channel in a different direction that's going to make a bigger impact for all of our students. So, you know, working with the various groups and programs, all of our departments have to meet 3-year plans. Because if you're not making those incremental steps along the way, you're never gonna get to your goal. And you can't always rely on the bond measure coming through. Hopefully, this bond measure, if we propose it to the board, we're gonna start talking to the board about that bond measure, November, December, we're gonna have a lot of discussion on it. I would never put anything in front of the board that we don't have ample time to run through our community, get a lot of discussion. And they feel very confident that we've done our work with inspections, with understanding what our school facilities can and cannot do, what our school facilities need and don't need. Some of them need electrical, but some of them need electrical, and they need air venting, and they need roof structures. And some of them need 2 of those things, some of them need 3 of those things, some of them need 1 of those things. But they all need something, right? In order for us to actually get the AC and the HVAC systems in and through our school site so that it can both heat and cool effectively. And so from this team, I tasked all of my departments to make 3-year plans so that every single year you're making strides and steps towards eventually what our goal is. Because sometimes we have to handle it just in and amongst ourselves. And sometimes we are fortunate and we can actually have a bond measure where we can do some of these big things. But even with the bond measure, it's years up to even put it on the ballot and vote. And I do understand that it's years after that before you go through the architectural plans, the DSA structures and the timelines for those plans to actually break ground and start becoming live projects. So we do understand that we do need those short-term goals, which we're pulling in. We'll continue to do that. We do have those mid-range goals of looking at our current electrical panels and seeing what we can do. It's not going to be a waste of money because we're still going to need them in the future if and when the bond measure does come through, right? So it's not wasted, but they're active steps that we can take in the midterm. And then obviously at the same time, we have to do all of the work that gears us up to go for a bond. So we're doing all of those 3 things currently at the same time. And that's not much of a commitment to the families, and it doesn't make any dent on the heat and the uncomfortableness and discomfort that you feel. But knowing that we are with you and we're going to make those action steps, whether you came tonight or whether you didn't come tonight, that's my commitment, the fact that we will do those things as a staff and as a leadership staff in order to make sure that both our staff, our students, and our volunteers have safe, welcoming, and conditioned environments to come into to work and to learn, because that is the most important thing. That's why we are here. So thank you for your comments and your concerns tonight. We don't fall in deaf ears, we definitely do not. And we will do anything that we can do from now and until we fix the problem. So I always say, whenever we have a solution or a situation on our hands, we work on that from this point until we don't need to work on that anymore, right? Until it's solved. Not anywhere in between. We work on it now and until it's done. So thank you all for your voices tonight, and I do wish you have a good night. And that's the end of my comments.
Thank you, Dr. Fricker. 9.3 student representative report. Michelle Laguerre, River World High School. This is Michelle's first report in this position, so we will cheer her on. Yay!
Hello, I'm Michelle from the school board members and everyone else present. Thank you for welcoming me. And presentations so kind of nervous, but at the same time. Okay, so.
Is it on your?
Yes, it's
It's right on the side.
yeah. Okay, so first we have elementary school reports. So thank you to the district leadership for acting quickly, purchasing and placing portable cooling units and areas for students. It's been pretty hot, so we definitely needed those. All sites have been attempting to fully staff certified and classified positions. It has been challenging, but it's been pretty successful. Teachers are grateful for our weekly PE team, Mrs. Tillman and Mrs. Perkins for student PE teacher prep time. Tier 2 interventions are in place, Title 1 instructional assistance, Kinder Team Afternoon, WIN, YD, crime reading intervention groups. Preliminary data conversations have begun to assist in setting school-wide vision and goals. All schools are preparing for our first PLC day on September 21 and for elementary parent conference week, September 26th to the 30th. LE was recognized by Kobe Franklin as a leader in media leadership school. LE's leadership team is developing a plan to recognize the community and celebrate. LE PTA fundraiser Step It Up has generated about $29,000. LE's first traditional kindness sprinkling and spirit day for this year is tomorrow. You can join them at 8 in the morning. The CHU's PTA fall fundraiser is shop fun for this trimester. We will also be participating in Step It Up in the spring. CHU held a Patriot Day ceremony attended by the Rolling Springs Fire Department and conducted by the Boy and Girl Scouts to commemorate the 21-year anniversary of the 9/11 tragedies. GOE PTA fall fundraiser was kicked off this Monday. The students enjoyed a fun assembly to kick off the program. Yesterday, VOE celebrated the Spirit Day Black Wednesday. Friday, VOE will be having a PTS hosted Trolls World Tour night full of movies, popcorn, cotton candy, games, and kids.
6 o'clock. 6 o'clock.
Right?
Troll night, 6 o'clock. Clarifying question right now.
Troll night, 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, I forgot to turn on my mic.
Okay, so LCAP, so FPH, more positives happening, FPH goals. So the school's been working on 3 goals, and the first one would be instruction, student learning, and professional development. So the Williams Act visit to FPH from the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools on August 23rd, 2022, provided positive feedback on the safety of our school facilities and access to instructional materials. Positive commendation included recognition of student politeness and engagement, as well as engaging instructional activities. Great job for our students and staff. The STAR Diagnostic Assessment Window for ELA in math is open from August 22 to September 2, which was 2 weeks ago. All MPH students take the assessment ELA in math to identify the present capacity to set goals for academic growth this school year. MPH professional development continues this school year with department-specific universal design for learning being held once a month. Universal design for learning focuses on making curriculum accessible to all students throughout engaging instruction and options for students to utilize the inquiry model for deeper comprehension. So for the second goal, school safety and surveillance. On Friday, August 16, 2022, MPH administration, counseling, and representatives from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department presented the fall PBIS expectations assemblies to all students through the PE classes. Topics included teaching and modeling positive expectations and interventions as part of the MPH Positive School Culture Plan, as well as how to report a concern in person or via the digital statement form. If you see something, say something. The student survey at the end of the assembly gives students the opportunity to share the feedback of the assembly, as well as how they can be part of the positive school culture at MPH. 96% of the students say PBIS student for positive behavior intervention support. 95% of students need that RRS is respectful, responsible, and safe. 95% of students need to report concerns to a teacher, counselor, or administrator. Students provided recommendations on how to be part of positive solutions on campus by being kind, learning from mistakes, and explain how to fix the mistakes. And now the goal number 3, engagement and equity. The first MPH School Site Council meeting and annual Title I meeting of the year will be held via Zoom at 8 a.m. on Wednesday, September 21st. Copy with the MPH administration quarterly. So the first date will be what's already past September 1, and then the next one will be October 27th, then January 12th, and then the last one will be in April 13th. MPH PTA is planning several activities for the start of the 2022 and 2023 school year. Consider joining as a member or volunteer. career fair participants. We had plenty of really nice individuals. I was there. It was pretty fun to see the whole different variety of things that us students could join. We had a talk and presentation from Jeffrey Hopper, an attorney at law, and then I didn't see her, but Lisa Shaughnessy, which was a legal assistant, and then Corey Pollard, producer director. They all showed their story and how they overcame obstacles, joined later on, how they just joined their careers and how they started everything. It was really interesting to hear. We had other amazing individuals from alternate studios, Women to Inspire, COP San Bernardino County Health Educator Specialist Department of Public Health, the Garrett Community Service District, Honest Community Hospital, Rem Association of Realtors, San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, San Bernardino County Alliance for Education, Simon Washington Marine, UCLA Conference Center, Garden Hope Productions, Skyfork Sands Village. And we have many more, like Public Works, Animal Trainer, Automotive Repair, NMR, American Medical Response, UC San Diego, College for All Community Outreach, License, Valley College, Nursing, Farm Tech, Sci Tech, GIS, Technical Employment Training, Introduction to Manufacturing Training, the Fab School, FIDM, California Baptist University, Crafton Hills College, Cal State San Bernardino Cybersecurity Program, Grand Canyon University, Riverside Community College, and Universal Technical Institute. A little repeat, so River World High School. So 10 River World High School teachers were treated to special recognition and celebration on Tuesday, August 30th. San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools, in partnership with Sheriff Employees Benefit Association, selected 16 schools countywide to distribute teacher gift cards worth $200 each to the ECBA shop with the COP Teachers Edition program, in which RHS was one of the 16 schools countywide to be selected.
Yes!
Now, the last one, River World High School upcoming events. September 23rd to the 24th is a homecoming dance and game. The September 27th, Awards Night. September 29th, Photo Makeup Day. October 4th, Scott's University. October 7th, SB Twin Peaks Sheriff's Assembly. October 12th is the PSAT. October 13th, AES VAP testing. And October 14th is Lunch. And that is all. Sport, please.
10.0 reports and presentations, 10.1 business services, approval of the budget, unaudited actuals, and enrollment report. Jenny Haberman, Chief Business Official.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Let me make sure this is still turned on. Yep. Okay, I have a lot of goodies there for you. Posted online also is the state report for our unaudited actuals. The unaudited actuals is really our closing financial report for the 21-22 fiscal year. So as you know, we're on a July 1 to a 6/30 fiscal year. And so starting in June, we build the budget for the next year. School's out, we have the summer, and in business, we start closing the books. And it really takes all up until the day of this meeting to get everything done. We have different mini timelines from June to now that we have to meet, of course, when systems close at the county level, certain reports are due, I think, or else everyone would probably wait to the last minute if it wasn't, this is due in July, and this is due in August, and whatnot. But a lot of work goes into it, so I think my team, and because we're so small too, there's a lot of things that we're able to know real intimately, that maybe in a big district, CDO and the accountant would know the little tiny ins and outs and, okay, we're gonna fix that for you at closing, or, give that budget to me, we'll work on it over the summer. So, it gets, a lot about the numbers. So I'm going to go through just our kind of wrap up of the closing. We're going to talk a little bit about enrollment and then next steps, because you already know that the county has approved our 22-23 budget. So with that approval, they also approved the LCAP. So that is the first step for us to really start working fully in the new fiscal year. So of course, we've been able to, pay bills and payroll and processing data to a point, but we haven't had the system and fully in 22-23 hasn't been open for us to start the housekeeping to post the new grant monies that became available through the enacted budget, adjust the budget for staffing changes, add new staff. So that's what we start doing after this board meeting. Is usually the new budget approval and closing, it's usually around the same couple of weeks that, we're finding out that our budget was approved. So we're wrapping this up and then quickly starting to work on kind of just the housekeeping that's involved in there. I gave a couple handouts that you won't see on the screen, and one of them I'll touch on as we go through some of the slides, but just a snapshot of our enrollment and a snapshot of our COVID funds. So just so you know what I gave you, because I don't expect you to go through it all today. I won't go through every single page either this evening. So
Jennifer, could you go 3 pages of this?
I can if you would like to.
The COVID funds one is the budget summary report.
Yes, yeah. So that's really kind of an ugly document, I'm going to have to say, because it is in the state software. It's called the SAPS report. And so it's a little bit cumbersome. There's a lot of supplemental forms. It's a little confusing because a lot of layman terms aren't used. We talk about Fund 1, they call it Form 1. Well, it's Form 1 for Fund 1. So people, they don't understand because, and I wouldn't either, so, but anyway, yes, and Jordan, I know you love reading that. So thank you. Okay, so I touched on a little bit about this, but what is my report, the purpose of it? We posted a book, it's called Unaudited Actuals. It's called Unaudited Actuals because it's really our actual closing, but we haven't gone through and completed our audit yet. So once in November, our auditors are finished, they come out 3 times a year. They've been working and doing a lot remotely. So, we stay busy even when they're not on site, uploading data, especially since so many people are used to working remotely, that they're able to not just come in with a massive team, because they were going to get everything done in these 3 visits. They're kind of trickling at it now, so it's actually worked out pretty nice. That maybe they're going to be at late grade with us the week of the 10th. So we're going to move, business is going to move, and then the next week we have auditors. So, but they'll probably be here only 3 days instead of 5, which was typical because they're already doing their work. But that's why it's called unaudited actuals, because our auditors haven't completed it yet. And sometimes we have to move our board meetings to a Tuesday before this Thursday, because you have to approve it by September 15th of each year. So lately, I think 2 meetings now on the 15th have fallen on a Thursday, so we haven't had to adjust our board meeting schedule. So that's nice. Okay, we're going to just, one of our practices, we align the budget as much as possible and the LCAP together. We monitor enrollment, and we look at expenditures and staffing. We continue to do that. And for starters, I want to start where we left off in June. When we, in June, our last month of school, our ending enrollment was 2,773. And I like to revisit where we ended this time of year, because I don't believe we have a board meeting after, so we've already, you usually get your last enrollment report in our month 10 attendance, and then we have our final month. So I just like to share that.
Since I can't squint at that one, what was our month one last year for 2021?
Our month one, for 2021 was, I just want to make sure we got the right one, 2923. And I'll be talking about that in 1 second too. I think we're going in the right, the same direction. Yeah. So when we move forward to currently, we just finished our first attendance month for the new year. And our current enrollment is 2,887. So that handout that I gave to you is just a snapshot of where we ended in June and then where we began. So although we haven't grown September to September, we're just slightly below where we were last September, we have grown compared to June. So last year we had about a 5% reduction in enrollment from September to June. It's usually around 2.5. So we have a larger decrease in enrollment from September to June. But then we had more students come back in September. And I highlighted on your report, just so you can see like last year's third grade class at a school. Well, how many fourth graders came in at that school? As you go through grades and schools, you can see where there's been an increase of enrollment. I mean, it might be, some kids in, some kids out, but a net increase, in many grades and at every school at some point. So, and that's kind of just how you can look at it. And one area too, was last year's 8th graders versus this year's 9th graders, that was an increase of students by 25. So we were really happy to see that. So is this a new trend? We can't call it a trend yet because we have one piece of data, or is it a blip? So, and that's one of the things over the next few years, and we'll look monthly too, because we'll have to start looking at stat. I mean, January will be here before we know it, when we're getting ready for staffing changes that might be needed, and we start those as early as November, December, like Dr. Fricker mentioned. And so some of these, it's like all of a sudden it's in our back door that following year will come here, what's our enrollment going to be like? We look at it every single month at that level. And as with my staffing lens, because it's different than the personnel staffing lens, we start, about 3 or 4 or 5 times a year, I'll do a spreadsheet. I'm really to talk to personnel with a position control in mind, and how is our students holding up? We had growth, and we haven't had growth in a long time. So it's a nice problem to have, even though I know we've had to struggle and also need 4 teachers at one school, and 2 at another, and 1 at another. So
what have we forecasted as far as first month this year?
we forecasted a decline of 3%.
From the end of the year last
So
year.
we did 5 throughout the year, and then we were forecasting -3 over this one.
Yeah, because we've been, unfortunately, except for COVID, we've really been consistent with around 3. So we had those years where we've had spikes of 5 and 6% decline, and a lot of that was when we had massive road closures, like what happened to 330. We had the basin in Redlands close, Norton Air Force Base, the recession, the gas prices, fires. We've had spikes when there's been events, but we've really been consistent with that 3%, 2%, 3%, 2%. So it's good to, sometimes that first 2% is 1.8 or, but it's atypical this year, and let's hope maybe it's on, we plateau, we're still at a higher number.
What was our projection for end of the year this year?
I calculated that already,
Okay.
because I need a 3 to 5 year, because I've already started recalculating money side of the LCFF. I did not bring, I already looked at that, but I did not bring it today. So I can put it in on Friday, okay? Thank you. So definitely. All right. So, all right, I know it's really hard to see up on the screen, but our corresponding ADA currently is 2,648.73. We're running at a school district right now at a 92% attendance rate. So that's better than 89, which we were last year. So, but we had a lot of COVID, we had quarantine, restrictions, we had, people staying home. You don't, we were staying home even when it was probably not COVID, but you don't want to take that chance. And even in the workforce, it's like, no, you're not being, go home. But so 92, we have budgeted 93. So we want to see, we want to look at that and that's strive, but we do have a slogan here, strive for 95. That's our next slide. And this first time in a long time, at our in-person school, of course, RVA is 100%. I'm not really sure if they're recording attendance and their attendance study, so it's a little bit different, but way to go RVA. But Rip High was the leader. So good job. So we're really excited, and traditionally, even though I think Hoffman has been the leader every month except 1 or 2 for years, Rim High, especially for our high school and their size, has always done really well. So good to see that. Well, it's the first of the year, so.
It sounds like a competition. It is.
Well, we want that competition. I was a Grandview mom too, like Sydney. I still know all of mine, but we have the HOT program at Grandview that every time, every day, every student was there on time and attendance, they got to fill in a piece of the word HOT, and it was here on time, and they got an honor clock at the end of the week. It was all filled in. So if I was running late for work and my kids got there late, I would get yelled at because we're not going to be hot today. You're late. So, but yeah, there's that incentives and that's that.
And the purple bear.
And the purple bear and the competition, which helps. So we like it. But that is our campaign for Strive for 95.
I just wanted to note on that ADA slide, that's our highest ADA number since the end of the 2020-2021 school year.
They're starting to feel a little bit like normal again, I think, in a lot of areas. The next 2 slides are just historical data on CBEDS, a historical look at CBEDS, which is a point in time for our enrollment, but it is the enrollment that we use as part of our LCFF apportionment calculator, and that is just, I calculate this because I need to work on the budget side, and it also looks at our enrollment for now until we discuss things, and maybe closer to first interim in December, we can have discussions, or maybe this is a more May budget development, is where are we going to land on our projections for next year? Are we going to keep with our trend of a 3% until we know different? Or are we going to budget with our budget cycle a 3%? So those are discussions we'll have to make as we look at enrollment and attendance every month. Okay, our next slide is our everyday counts, and we like to just parents and teachers and different folks like to always ask, well, how much do you get every day? And this is an approximate number because we with LCFF, different grades and different students are funded differently because depending on the demographics of our students. So these are average numbers and approximate numbers. But if someone hits all of the demographics that contributed to our funding, roughly around $68 a day, as a day of attendance generate for us. So we were thinking of, incentives to, for our students, for our parents. Some parents still take over, like, oh, I'm sick, you still get the money, right? And that's been, almost 30 years, no, not about 26 years, since that legislation, was reversed. So, but we do get asked that quite often, and so we like to include it just for people who have this PowerPoint, or we have it at the ready. Okay, I wanted to take some time and talk about LCFF. And I like to talk about enrollment first, because enrollment and the corresponding ADA is the two biggest components for when we calculate our revenue. So this is a historical look of the components of our LCFF funding. And you can see in from the 2021 to the 21-22, we had an increase in total LCFF dollars, but we had a larger COLA than we had been used to. Going into 22-23, we have quite a big difference from one year to the next. Then moving forward to the 23-24, 24-25, 25-26, 26-27, of course, assumptions can change daily. If the assumptions today, and these are just assumptions today, with enrollment, ADA, our unduplicated count, and the COLA, what's our change, our total change in LCFF? So we are very thankful for this year. Number one, the 22-23 budget, and I have a slide on this in a little bit. We have not only a larger COLA, but we have that ADA relief. The slide that Jordan referenced just a little bit ago, where it shows the ADA, the 21-22, we had 89% ADA. Well, so did most schools in California. That's why when the state enacted budget, there was that ADA relief. This would have been that first fiscal clip without that relief built into the budget.
So the interesting part is part of my budget report, so I'll just say it here, is capital advisors told us that, revenue, the actual revenue numbers came in, and for the first time in a decade, revenue came in below the projection. So in June, it was down 2.5 billion, July 1.1 billion. They are estimating that they're going to see, another month of coming in below projections. So
I saw the same video.
yeah, I sent that out to everybody. So that's a little bit concerning, because as Kevin always says, when the stock market gets a little sneeze, California gets pneumonia. So we just want to, Prop 98 reserve, of course, has like $9.5 billion. So there's a cushion, but it's concerning because how does that then affect January? And, the one-time monies to be renegotiated and distributed, that will be effective.
Yeah. So the positive with that is the state putting the rainy day fund and the reserve, but also because the governor, we complained about it a little bit when he was giving all those one-time monies, because they're like, we don't like one-time money, just give it up. But then because there are so many one-time pots of money, it's not as hard for districts to do without some of that. And
you just don't spend it because it's not going to be given to you anyways.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. But
it's
it's
not
just
part of your ongoing, you don't hire people based on one time, unless it's temporary in nature. So. Yes, I hear that. So, and one of the things I'd like to see, so really in the 24, 25, and 25, 26 year, even though there are slight negatives, that's really to me, we consider those years as flat funding, based on our enrollment assumptions and the COLAs. And because you can't, when you're adjusting your total dollars for enrollment decline, it doesn't matter what the COLA is going to be on, it's on less numbers. So what you can see is the calculation below is we had what the current COLA is and what as a percent increase the new dollars were. So you can see that last year, because of one-time money, because of additional, the stated COLA was 5.07. But our increase because of that EDA relief and some other components, we were increased by 6.2. 22-23, 12.84, we only realized 9.49. So to look at it in dollars and not necessarily a percentage is, when you have declining enrollment, or even flat enrollment, to look at it as what does it mean for RIM? Because RIM and Sacramento and LA, San Diego, we're all a little different with the funding model. LCFF is not. And basically, the districts even got a lot less, but they always have gotten more for so many years, so.
And we're assuming along the way that we're getting the concentration grants along with this.
We've assumed the same level of concentration grant, which is around 60 to 62%. So that's another area we have to stay focused on, and incentives to parents to fill out those income verification forms, because that's the only way now with universal meals, we can document the income, the demographic of our families.
And related to ADA, has there been any discussions yet regarding Saturday school?
We haven't even started those discussions. Okay. All right, the next two slides is just sometimes a picture's worth 1,000 words. It's the same total dollars in 21-22 and 22-23 in LCFF. But you can see the, as a piece of the pie, really, how much is our base versus grade standard adjustment and our concentration of supplemental. You have 21-22, where we just ended, and 22-23, where we currently are with the enacted budget. Okay. All right, I talked a little bit about the ADA relief, but one of the things I'd like to say is that our total 22-23 LCFF has increased by about $1.6 million over where we were at budget development. So with the state enacted work in the trailer bills, we have an overall increase of $1.6 directly, but some of that is, we've had final ADA, we've had some prior year adjustments, there are some things in the calculation that get tweaked when we're closing the books. Of that portion, approximately 1.6, a little more than that, 1,629,023 is related to that ADA relief. Okay. And I just wanted to talk about it for a minute because there's some audit risks with this ADA relief. The ADA relief came with some caveats in the ed code about how you offered independent study to your students during the 21-22 school year, what type of written policies you had in place at the time, what your master agreements look like now, and were you compliant with the ed code at the time. So one of the things that our auditors will be charged with doing this year is taking a look back at last year. So, in part of the 22-23 audit, not the audit we're recognizing. So, that's a little nerve-wracking sometimes to say there's new language, we're going to be judged on something we didn't know we were going to be judged on. So I wanted to highlight that to you. We're being told that the specifics of the trailer bill, probably most auditors aren't going to be really hard about it, to be honest, that they know that there's districts that would not have foreseen needing to make sure they were doing certain things this way. And it would depend on your auditor if they thought certain things were a big deal or not. So I think we have pretty reasonable auditors from our experience. I didn't know if you wanted anything. I thought you were reaching towards your microphone.
I was.
Okay.
So in some cases, if we're found not to be compliant, it is true that they would request ADA to be returned. And so that's really the big scare of it, to make sure that whatever we were doing, especially with our intensity group, we are following those guidelines and getting documentation.
So I mean, that is something, you know, so we recognize this as revenue, but there's also some risk that we need to, you know, just get through the audit, you know, the 22-23 audit, see what the audit guide is going to show, see what our auditors are going to want. You know, but I just need you to know that this is included and there could be discussions that we have in the future about that. Okay. But every district's having similar conversations, or they should be. Okay, the next couple pages is just a summary of our 21-22 unaudited actuals, in case you don't want to go through those forms of on-fund one.
Oh, no, we like,
So,
I like child nutrition services, I like how the adjustments in high.
yeah, I did not make a slide for child nutrition services, and I should have. I am
No.
so sorry, but
I love
one of the things, because you said that, child nutrition, not only for this, well, since during COVID, we got so much COVID money to help child nutrition, but pre-COVID, before we even knew what COVID was, our child nutrition services ran at a deficit. Since I've worked here, I've been here 24 years now.
130 something.
And not this year, with how we were especially funded high in the 21-22 school year, because every student was funded at the free level. That won't be the case with universal meals and CEP program, but during COVID, and every day was funded at your highest day. So you could have 500 students eat at MPH one day, and maybe you typically have 300. Every day that month, we received a meal participation of 500 students. So we were gaining revenue that we necessarily didn't have the students for because of just how they were funded last year on the labor program. We have the biggest surplus in child nutrition that we've ever had, and it's, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think it's around $700,000 or $800,000. So, which will help during the, you know, when they.
For the continuing years when we get
For
less.
the continuing years, but we also have to learn, we've never been a CEP district. So we're all learning how to account for that, how for me to budget it, how Lisa to, you know, direct under it. So with the CEP, everyone, and then California's universal meals, everyone's free anyway, but not always funded at the free rate. It's funded at our demographics. There's a calculation for that. But yeah, child nutrition, fund 13, that's on form 13, but it's fund 13. We're really excited. You know, Lisa almost fell off her chair when I told her. So we were excited for it.
She also, her whole department should be congratulated also, because I understand that students are getting enthusiastic of food. We have a wonderful selection, and that hasn't always been the case. And so they've really done a phenomenal job. So
She's so excited about feeding kids, you know, it's really.
and
neat.
free pizza.
And pizza and salad bar here.
Super excited about the pizza.
And the fact this has happened in the face of such struggling supply chain issues as well.
And equipment issues.
Yes.
So that's my next question, actually, that pot of money
In the infrastructure grant or the reserve, or her surplus.
her surplus, can it be utilized for upgrading kitchen equipment or no? It can't, okay.
But it can't be used for equipment that may be used for other, I mean, it has to be, in Fund 13, it's very strict. This is
Like the ovens or the dishwasher,
Yeah.
okay.
So the portable AC unit you buy for the kitchen and then move somewhere else is not.
Well, it's just the fact that.
I don't think we can spend that on it. I might be in too much of a gray area for him.
So I know that like some of our COVID money, because we needed to upgrade some of the equipment, like the fact that Rome High School they had a new dishwasher because it had broken. And it became a safety issue, you have to sanitize everything. So we used COVID money to do some of that, which is expensive, but that came out of COVID money. So it's like, oh, okay, now what else can
Well,
we
now
do?
we have the kitchen infrastructure grant also,
Okay, yeah,
so that'll go quick, it was only about 180,000, so.
all right, cool.
Okay, so just real briefly, that is the, a summary of Fund One, for the 21-22 school year. And on the expenditure side, you can see here, because of a lot of COVID money, it skewed our percentages a little bit, in our payroll and books and supplies areas, because we're buying so much stuff. And we have, this additional COVID funds. Usually we're around at 85-86% personnel, the total budget percentage, but we're running about 81, but that's just because of the influx of one-time money to buy things like kitchen infrastructure and to buy PPE and new textbooks and Chromebooks and things like that we bought. So that is usually we're around 85-86, and some lean years we hit 87-88 mark, and then you're going with 12% left in your budget, everything else paid for.
Jenny, on the budget summary report, the non-capital inventory equipment under books and supplies, maybe 2018 them too. Do you know if that was Chromebooks, or do you know what that was?
Which report are you looking at?
The budget summary.
Under the 4,000s to 49 under that.
So the 4,000s would be Chromebooks. If you saw the technology, you could see technology though in a 5,000 range, but that would be items over our capitalization threshold or certain subscriptions.
Gotcha.
So
All the other ones I could like read and make sense of, but non-capital inventory equipment wasn't very restrictive.
yes.
Thanks.
So, and that one would most likely be a Chromebook, but it could also be technology, other technology.
The screens in the classroom. Okay.
But then you hit over $2,000 and you'd see it in the 5,000, right? Because then we capitalize it and appreciate it.
Not
Thank you. The next slide is just sometimes a picture's worth 1,000 words. 2 years pie chart of our total budget for 21-22. Broken down in a little more detail than the summary before, where we've broken this out more in detail by object codes. So you can see retiree payments, you can see aides versus other classified workers versus admin versus teacher, different classifications of classified.
Are we seeing an increase in the retiree incentives? Okay, we're beginning to realize that.
Yes, so we are at the end of the tunnel, really with our golden handshake payments. We've made our last one with hers, and after the 22-23, we will have 2 more with STRS. And then we have some residual employee incentives through the negotiations of when we had cutoff dates of people who are still in that group that was sunshine. So we still have, maybe probably the next 10 years, we will have a decent size, but every year we get a little bit less taken off as we have people who have now passed 75 who were still getting full benefits or full cash in lieu, little by little. Okay, we had some changes from when I stood up here in June to September. We always do. Sometimes not always positive changes, but I only have positive news for the changes today. So, which is good. We haven't really, it's last year and this year, we've actually had a lot of positive news. We haven't come with deferrals and reductions or zero COLAs, and so it's been nice. So some of the changes from when we were estimating where we'd be when we finally closed the books, we have a greater ending fund balance than we talked about in June. And I've listed, I mean, there's always
small pots of money, 1,000 here, 2,000 here, and sometimes even the opposite. You save 20,000 here and your sub costs go through the roof one year when you have people out or workers' comp or, you have younger staff and babies being born and things like that where we have. So, usually those kind of cancel each other out throughout the year, but then we have some significant things that I think COVID related, a lot of them. Some of it was struggles, but ended up with a financial positive because of vacancies and but then also one-time dollars to be able to take some burden off the general fund. And so we want to maximize some of those funds when we can, because then that just increases our ending fund balance. But you can see I listed the major ones, not the little tiny ones. But we received a claim we had put in with FEMA from the very beginnings of COVID. So we got that money. It was a lot of work. No, hopefully we didn't spend in employee time $68,000 getting those monies, but it was FEMA was something to go through. We received a testing grant from the CDPH to help offset costs navigating through COVID testing. So that's going to now be available to use this year, even though we've already spent the money in different areas the last 2 years. So this we can use this to move forward with whatever rules will be under with COVID moving forward. Because even though we're seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, COVID-19 is probably going to be in our future, if not in monkeypox or something else for the next several years. We had some, because we had higher sub costs and we had higher rates than we were paying, we used ESSER funds to pay for a lot of our sub costs, but then that did give a savings to the general fund. One of the things we hadn't done in the prior 2 years is charging direct costs to the ESSER funds. That means the time it takes for all of us to manage them, to account for them, the purchase orders, so we were able to, within the ones that we're allowed to, charge indirect costs to, and that was a savings of $249,000. And then we had, like I said, we had vacancies. We had ELAs and security vacancies. Some I don't think we filled at all last year on the EL side. We had health and welfare costs went down for our employees. You budget, you're going to, you're all new employees. I'd initially budget for you being a family plan. You hire a single, you have some savings there at the end of the year. But that you don't want to budget a single and have 20 areas come in, because then it's the opposite. We had a slight decrease to unemployment total costs this year. We had a slight decrease for our retiree health and welfare benefit payments that we pay. The next page is really on the restricted side of the budget, so you're not going to see it fall down necessarily in the income balance, but because it would have come in a reduction to a contribution to a program, and special ed was really our big one. So we had so CARES Act that reimbursed us for something from 2019, some admin duties. When we did the initial shutdown, we got reimbursed $76,000 for time turned in, and that was through a county grant. We had bids and charges that we were able to transfer to our educator effectiveness grant. We had several special education aid vacancies, which provided a savings to the district. I mean, those aren't necessarily savings that we wanted to have, because we would have rather had the personnel hired, but that is just explaining, why we thought one number was going to be X and it was Y. This is Y. We had a reduction in the amount of special ed consultants, non-public school fees and self charges. One of the things that could be without really having that communication last year with special ed is we had one change from, I know just in call the conversation, we did have a student go from MTS Kappa to one of our high schools, so that would be savings that we wouldn't be paying at MTS anymore. So little things like that. We had some last bit of a state mental health grant that we were able to find special ed mental health charges that were charged by the SELPA and use up the rest of that money. That was $47,000. And then we were able to supplement transportation with ESSER funds, which is a savings because we haven't been utilizing parent paid transportation since the pandemic. So even before now, this year, 22-23, we're going to be getting additional transportation dollars. So depending on how that'll work, we might keep pay free transportation for all. We'll have to have that discussion going into the 23-24 school year when we find out exactly what our transportation funding going to be. We're going to have to offer it to all of our uneducated students anyway, which then a very small percentage of our students that ride that totally pay, that would be a non-uneducated, would be a small dollar amount. But so the last 2 years, we haven't been charging transportation, and so we backfilled that loss of revenue with ESSER funds. So that's what that dollar amount.
Got a comment and a question. As far as this page, I have to imagine that you and your department really had to do a lot in order for us to be able to recoup this funding. So thank you. There's a lot of money that we had to, I'm sure you had to do various tons of reports and paperwork to be able to have us be able to get this
Well,
money
a lot of
back.
it we just didn't spend.
Okay, well, that's on the.
I don't want to take credit if I
Okay.
didn't have to do, but a lot of this wasn't necessarily action on my part,
But
why
some-
we got the money.
But some of it.
Some of it was, yeah.
So this is money that we didn't spend in restricted, so that, does that then just roll over to the next
Well,
year?
because these accounts encroach on the general fund and we made the contribution, it made the contribution less. So there isn't funds to roll over. We just contributed less, which made our ending fund balance over on the unrestricted side higher because the budgeted contribution was less. So we budgeted, let's say, 3 million to contribute to special ed, and if we only budget 2.6, there's 400,000 that falls out in the unrestricted side of the general fund, because those dollars from the unrestricted side are what contribute to that special ed program.
So the end result is actually we have more unrestricted funds that can be
Correct.
available to us.
Yes. There's a page in the state forms, it's probably, I think, page like 10 behind each fund, and you can see the restricted ending balances of those restricted funds, except federal, that, is federal still on that? See, it's cookie, you'll find the federal ones on a different section of the forms. So, but those you'll see like lottery, okay, restricted lottery, you'll see how the restricted lottery ended, and that's what all posts is carried over. You'll see donations, you'll see some of those in there. And I can show you a page that, like the Title I, the Title IIIs and things like that aren't on that page. I can show you where they are. So with our talk about COVID funds and the handout that you have, just to read it when you're interested, we do have some planned and potential COVID expenses over the next 2 years. And the plan is at the October meeting. I'll revisit during my budget presentation at that month. I'll be able to put dollars by then to these and say, okay, we ended 21-22, this much money left. We have these budgeted expenditures still. Now what money's left? And what do we think we won't? Some of the remaining money in COVID we just haven't been able to spend because we haven't been able to either hire the personnel or get a program going or just a variety of reasons. Then we can go back to the drawing board and say, okay, how do we, like Dr. Fricker mentioned, reallocate some of these resources and put them in a different pot. We are hearing that because the majority of the ESSER funds have a deadline of 2024 to spend, and that I got emails today that 2025 I was on some of the emails today,
So
so
it should be 2026.
2026.
The idea is that you still commit your dollars and allocate those dollars by 2024, but you have till 2026 for the actual expenditure. That is what's being pushed right now.
So.
And we'll see.
We'll see. I'll have to just dig up what came across my desk today, because I thought one of the costs had already been changed to 2025. So I'll look for that also. So you can see here that these are items that have been on our list. Some of them are in place. Some of them are being worked on, and some of them are still on those planning when we all met and put our ESSER and ELO plans together. That, you know, did we do it? Did we not do it? So I'll bring that to you at the next board meeting.
Cooling minutes.
Well, they weren't all AC that week, because that's the 22, 23. You know, so yes, that I already have a dollar amount for that one. Okay, any questions so far? I have just 2 more slides to go through, but the next one is not going to take a ton long, but could have some discussion. So the sale of the district office building. So as you know, we're in escrow, and hopefully that closes on time in end-ish of October. And we have already started to move to Lake Gregory. Mark and Jim have been doing amazing work getting internet going where there wasn't internet capabilities. We have walls, we have heaters fixed, we have, we won't have phones right now. So there's always been something, but we have, it was really like a close-up school and there was still stuff. There was still student art on the walls. And so there's been a lot of work to get that done. But the next job will be once it closes, what to do with the proceeds of the sale. So we don't have, I don't need formal direction for that, but we do need to be good stewards on, you know, your direction. And we have one time sensitive item. We got the treasurer, we have given the nod to that, yes, pursue or not, and I put this in some Friday updates. But we're going to, sales price, you know, was $3.2 million. And of that, there will be about 175, that's rounded up a little bit off the top for escrow fees, commissions, title fees, etc. And the title officer, as you know, is really having to do extra duty with some of the items on our title report. So we have, I highlighted the portion that is probably the most time sensitive, and that is the matching portion of our HVIP and EPA electric bus grant. Jen Kaywell has done a great job applying for kind of piggyback grants through the HVIP and the EPA for 5 electric buses. And the HVIP is through Edison, EPA, of course, is through the EPA administrative office. And between the 2 of them, they would be fully funded for our district because neither one of them were fully funded electric bus. We could have gotten a fully funded electric bus if we wanted 70 passengers. They are not fully funding the small mini buses. They're only funding about 50%. That is why she had to couple them together, you know, to both pay for, you know, both grants pay for each bus. We just found that our large block buses, they're not, until technology changes and battery storage and charging state that changes, we could not make our routes up here with a 70 passenger full electric bus. Jen can probably more eloquently explain it than I can. But one of our matching portion under these 2 grants is the charging station itself. And so that's going to be around $125,000. So $1.7 million worth of small 18 passenger plus 1 wheelchair passenger, so technically 19 passenger minibus electric. For five of them is about 1.7 million. They're about 350,000 each. So our portion would be then the charging station. So we would, need to lock in that price. They're estimating at every kind of couple weeks, there's a lot of electrical, there's a lot of supply chain issues. The sooner we lock it in, the sooner we have more of a locked in price of what that's going to be. We don't have to make a decision. Buses wouldn't get here for about a year. But we don't know what the economy is going to be like in a year. So that's kind of where we're at with that. So
Is this a formal directive we give you in a future board meeting or?
No, we can do it, we just can do it right now. We can just get like some kind of.
it's really through Dr. Fricker gives me but we want to make sure
Yeah,
we're
we
comfortable.
just
You're comfortable with it.
pull the board.
This is just a temperature check, it will come back down as item when we actually prescribe the contract. So
Yeah.
it's just that not to say yes, go ahead and see.
Keep going.
Keep going. Do you want to hold board reference? Yeah.
Yeah, ask questions here.
Absolutely.
Along with have the buses and the, have a charging station, what other fees should we anticipate with these?
I was told, so let's just, that this was it. That this number was a kind of a rounded up number.
Not yes.
Jim's been probably more so involved in this than I have been, but I mean, because that's one of the things, especially with our history lately, with some, oh, here, this is for free, then it's not for free. We've been going, well, how much, what are else is there, include the mountain package, is it the special fog lights? Is it the ability to carry chains and
Are the maintenance expenses on these type of buses more than what our current buses are? About the same.
And do we have,
Do we have,
how much training would go into learning how to maintain electric buses?
we, just like we did with CNG, when we switched to the CNG technology, we send our mechanics down for CNG training. We would want to do the same, but right now, we're probably kind of in a 3-year plan, if not a 2-year plan, of needing to buy new minibuses anyway. So, I mean, they all have, 200,000-300,000 miles on them. So, this would replace some of the aging. We just travel so far on our buses, especially our minibuses where we're going down to DOE and we're dropping off to high school and we're running off.
So this is 5 minibuses that the grants would pay for, and our expense is the 125,000.
Will they be able to make the full distance?
Jen, you tell me if I got anything wrong on this one, but the reason why the charging station would be up near Hoffman or at Hoffman was they would still use their other buses, but they can go on routes kind of in more of a general area, go back and charge them up a little bit easier with a special ed routing where they can have buses that they trade off, or you use this bus in the afternoon because this one's going to charge. Jen had kind of in her head, like, how can I make the routes work?
So we're only talking 1 charging station?
Talking about 5, and two of the 5 will be fast chargers. So we'll be able to go in and you can charge your bus in emergency, and then the rest of them will be just a regular charging station.
but they will all be stationed at CHE, we can't do like 2 here and 3 here.
They're gonna be up the yard now?
Oh, they're gonna do the bus drive.
Are they granted not paid for different locations?
What happened to CHC though?
It says that they will be in one section of our yard because of the electrical runs.
Gotcha.
So we have a site visit, I think, next week. A site visit with Edison to make sure that we're putting in this.
Right, I imagine it's cheaper to install them all at one location instead of spread out, but for our needs, it would be cool if we could put them in every school.
So there won't be one at CHE.
Nope, that's updated information.
Right.
Last Friday.
And what are the electrical costs when you are charging.
Less than that. There will also be a monthly payment that we have to do for watching how much of the electric that we're using per station.
Could that exceed what we're currently paying for fuel?
I would have to crunch those numbers with Jen.
That might help us to,
Will we be vulnerable to power outages and the like? Will we not be able to run our buses if we're having problems with power?
Our generators will take care of the charging station. As long as our generators up.
For those listening online, the generators will support it in the that.
Will staffing still be the same? Or are these going to be just a one-for-one swap for the current hub?
So we can definitely go back and, I mean, if you're at a comfort level of cost of natural gas or diesel versus the cost of electricity, I can certainly meet with Jen and the Edison folks.
Who knows where things are going to be here for now?
So will we be keeping our old buses?
And we would probably keep them until, we like to keep things until we cannot drive them anymore. So we are not going to get rid of them in case we ever need them, but when it becomes too expensive to fix, then keeping them, yes.
Where will these buses be manufactured and where parts come from, like especially the batteries?
That I'll have to get for you. I don't have that. I'm sure I can get that in the grant language, but I don't have that today.
Will they be equally as safe as what we have right now as far as protecting students?
Yes. You don't have to, we can talk about this in October, I know.
and then I just to
Like process my own thoughts and summary on it. We're getting new buses, we're getting free buses, we're investing a small amount to get those free buses and to charge them and gas them. And we're gonna have to pay for gas with buses that are outdated.
And the only additional cost seems to be really the training that we'll have to send for being able to make sure that we can maintain them.
Could it be?
I think another consideration is aren't districts under an obligation to switch to renewable
Yes.
2035.
2035, so we'll have to
We're
work
gonna
on
have to do this anyways.
And I think it opens up a bigger conversation too, that maybe we have when we, if and when we start talking about a bond is what's our long-term plan going to be for renewable energy. But buses and white fleet and kitchen equipment and lighting, so.
No, just kidding. Will these buses be a block rate just as ours do already in the snow when it gets cold?
any standout advantages where, oh wow, these electric buses will perform better in X, Y, or Z?
I haven't picked up on any of that. I think a lot of our team really misses our old diesel buses. To be honest, there was nothing like Noel Thomas coming up the hill.
Dan, are you comfortable with the poll now, or, okay, can you just get thumbs up or thumbs down from the board to move forward? All right, please move forward.
Okay, so moving on to the sale of the district office, we will have some reimbursements for the general fund for what it's taken to not move, get ready, the new site to get ready. The phone system repairs, technology repairs and upgrading and cleaning estimated to be $396,000 and change. Then we talked about, okay, what other items can we possibly plan or need to use the proceeds of these funds for? We have site and student technology purchases. You know, that would include secretary desktop units. You know, people in my, the district office, a desktop unit that's not part of our laptop refresh program that we are already currently in. Mark and I talked about the Chromebook, what would be an annual expense for needing to replace Chromebooks, 3 years of that annual expense. And so then breakage and what would we think would be reasonable amount right now, to set aside for that. Number might be a little low, to be honest, when you're talking about technology and needs. First year of voice over IP upgrades to the phone systems in the district, the entire district, because we have really antiquated phone systems. And I've taken a lot of time today, so I won't just tell stories, but if you've heard some of the things we've had to do to get phones back with that LGDC, it's like we're living 30, 40 years ago. Because of just how old some of these, the internal structures are. So your really good estimate for the first year cost of voice over IP, then it's dramatically lower for just maintenance every year. Is about $1,000 a phone per line that you would need. So keep the phone in the classroom, phone in the office, and whatnot. So that would be a rough estimate of $325,000 for first year cost of implementing voice over IP. Then we have a matching, which this will come out of our general fund because we've already moved forward on it for the COPS grant that we should hear about in October if we receive that. And that we did put in for exterior fences and lighting cameras and door locks. And we had a really good shot at this grant. We feel really, really good about it, especially since we got extra bonuses for being a rural school district. So that we should hear in October if we were successful with that grant. Through the contract with Snyder, we're in the beginning talks of the new EPA HVAC grants that opened up in September. And Jim and I are on monthly calls with them. So that what we would be eligible for is about $3 to $5 million worth of air quality upgrades, that we can do some of these little tiny things that we can help ourselves without being work on, and that would have a matching component to it. So and you're looking at spending, $650,000, but maybe getting $5 million. So it's and then of course I didn't put a dollar amount to this because it would take more than we would have left. But we have things like carpet. We have carpet from the 70s, and so some classrooms. We have to address roofing repairs and asphalt probably at every playground.
For the proceeds on the sale, what restrictions do we have?
Well, currently, and for the next 2 years, there's not a lot of restrictions. So we're able to put the funds into Fund 1, where before I lost my choice of words, but it would normally go into Fund 40. But then there's been some ed code changes that loosens that, and those I believe expired in 2024.
It was to get some flexibility during the time of COVID.
Yeah, so that's why we really have to talk about it. It would be capital improvement. We wouldn't have a choice before because it would go into Fund 40, which is for capital improvements. So really, that original intent of the government code and ed code for sale of surplus property is to reinvest the money into capital projects. But we have flexibility. And deferred maintenance isn't a capital project. So there's even some really good things we can do for our facilities that we haven't been able to do before, where it'd be like, oh, I can do a roof, but I can't do carpet, So that's one of the things and this isn't a decision today, but at some point we're going to have proceeds. And we'll need to know, okay, I'm going to, do we transfer some into the deferred maintenance account and restrict them? Do we transfer some into capital improvements? And so they stay in Fund 40, some stay in Fund 14. Whether we keep it Fund 1, because then it can be the Chromebooks or the voice over IP.
After these numbers, if we were to follow them, we only have like 1.3 million left.
That's why we wanted to start the conversation now, because there's there's more need than dollar amount in every area. In personnel even, although we can't spend this on personnel. So, yeah, there's a lot of needs.
So a lot of these are discretionary in terms of what you have listed here. So what isn't discretionary is the cost of the sale, the 175,000. We've given the go-ahead for the bus, so that's 125, so that's 300. And then the cost for the move, 400,000. So what really isn't tagged right now is about $2.5 million here, along with earlier in the report, about $2 million of money that we didn't spend that has rolled over to this year. So it's about $4 million that also could go towards air conditioning.
I would be really, I mean, the ending fund balance amount, not that I don't want air conditioning, I'm not saying this, but the Fund 1 ending fund balance, when you look at the 3 and 5 year plan or that projection for LCFF, you saw years that were flat or negative funding. So I would be really cautious in spending some of those.
Using all of it.
Yeah, using all those, you know, for like one thing, you know. So if you wanted to say, well, start contributing to Fund 14 every year and put that 500,000 back that we, you know, had over in our other reserves, you know, so before you were board members, and we can start, you know, contributing annually to Fund 14. That's a little bit maybe a more cautious use of that, because then we can react then to a surprise in maybe in January, or we can say, you know, a facilities master plan that could take a $200,000 to really do adequate facility master's plan. Take some of that or some of this, and say, okay, you know, work with your architects and say, what exactly do we need at every single school site? What's our, you know, that they start even looking at housing for enrollment trends, and what are we going to do about, you know, pre-K, and, you know, is it going to even go down to preschool mandates and things like that, and where's our total facility needs? You know, where you can reserve this and have more conversations. You can reserve, you can commit some of the savings in 21-22, and you can give me direction. And this is a very important, formal board report, just like we did in June, where we committed those funds. We could commit some of that savings for air, okay? And then uncommit it if we don't need it, or the situation has changed. We're going to have to revisit that resolution anyway, because some of those things that we committed will change, and then or don't apply now with the governor's budget. So I mean, that would probably be more looking at the facilities commitment, because before air, there's electrical that needs to be done. There's duct, you know, we need ducting that doesn't have ducting. We have structural issues. We have we have an outside air component and O2 sensors that we're going to have to be getting. And so when you have a brick building, then you're required to have outside air vent to bring air in. Where do you get that air in if you have a brick building? Then you have to do something structural now. So
that makes sense. And potentially this money could also go towards, and probably should go towards what priorities are determined through our 3-year planning process.
I'm not saying not, because I graduated from here, so I know what it's like too. And my kids, you know, and hopefully my grandkids, and at some point. But it's, you know, yeah, I would just be real cautious about, oh, now we just got $4 million. That makes me nervous.
Especially if we're coming in lower than projections. Or just because of the news of coming in lower for the last couple of months, just a little bit nervous.
And there's going to be some pressures on that ending fund balance. That's not facility related. That's needs in the school district too. with textbooks and supplies and compensation and hiring.
And the state is still in a state of declining enrollment, so it's another factor.
But, they're having some set aside for matching, or maybe, start building up some of these pots that every year we can do something for 200 or 500,000. Is that the baby steps?
Start chipping away.
Does anyone have any more questions on this slide? So that's really it. Just our next steps are, we start our housekeeping. Like I've already said, I've already talked about most of our next steps, but, we start housekeeping with the 22-23 budget. We work with our stakeholders on changes. We'll develop multi-year projections for the first interim. Of course, we start looking at those, before December, and just continue monitoring enrollment. That's going to be a big thing that we look at now.
As always, thank you.
Sorry.
Thanks.
10.2 Educational Services, presentation of the Educational Services Report covering transition to electronic report cards in grades 6 through 12. Heather Dominguez, Director of Educational Services. Hi, do we have like a matching shirt on our live?
Oh, oh, now it's on. All right, well, good evening, board, superintendent, cabinet, esteemed guests. I'm going to just share a report on the status of what we're thinking of moving forward with in terms of our distribution of report cards. So we wanted to apprise the board of the transition to electronic report cards for secondary students beginning this school year. Many of our surrounding districts transitioned to this method of delivery a few years ago. Most of our parent confirmations and information already access and our parents use the Aries Parent Portal, and it's extensively used by our families at the secondary level. So we believe that this transition will be more cost effective and efficient moving forward. Parents will be notified at each reporting period about when and how to access the reports in the Aries Parent Portal. The Parent Square message will also provide information about who to contact at each school if they prefer a paper copy or are unable to access this information via the portal. Elementary report cards will still be delivered to families in the traditional paper format, as our elementary parents are not as comfortable yet using the Aries Parent Portal. Our secondary families are far more used to that and have experience with that, and our elementary families not as much. So we would start there. We will consider transitioning elementary at a future date once we've implemented the change at secondary schools. And we just wanted to apprise the board that this was our intention. We will save staff time, it will be very accessible to our families, and yet we will still be accessible to those families who do not be as comfortable with technology.
Will we be able to monitor how many of them check the report cards online?
That's a good question. I'm going to defer
I
to
don't think there's a way in Aries to, I mean, I get a timestamp of when the parent last went into the portal, but I don't know.
Say open that document.
All it would be just a download. Pretty much, they just go on there, they pick it and they download it.
I would just be curious of the
Right,
parental engagement in that, and if it's only 20%, then we go, hey, this isn't a good idea, we need to go back to the paper to ensure that they're receiving the report cards.
And I think we have over 90% of our parents that are confirmed as being
Right.
users and that they're contactable. We call them.
yeah, we have 92% of our parents have logged into Aries since school has begun to check information. So, and just to back up what Heather said, we've been putting report cards in Aries, I want to say for the last 4 years. So like my senior in high school, she can get all her report cards from MPH as well. So This isn't something that's new. It's just we're changing the method of how they're going to get their report
So she can't go to the PO box and push the report card
Not
back in
anymore.
over and over and over again, and then when mom's not there, I'm not saying I did this, but
Okay, no, I'll get the notes.
I got it.
I'm gonna be at Dover today.
Yes.
So one of our other challenges has been that the machines that are required for actually printing the report cards in a standard format and mailing them are really obsolete. We actually had 2 of them and now we only have 1 and we can't get parts for them. So currently we have 1 machine shared between all of our secondary campuses. And so that has become quite a challenge in terms of personnel, even accessing the needed resources to be able to physically print them.
Sounds like a wonderful plan.
All right.
Does anybody else have anything they want to add?
All right, thank you very much.
11.0 reports and presentations, setting direction. 11.1 board goals, handbook check-in.
Cindy. And that was put on by a different board member than me, so we're just continuing on. We want to check into our governance handbook for the specific purposes of just reminding ourselves what our procedures and protocols of being on the part of the governance team, what are governance norms, what are our formal processes, everything from voting no, which you can do, to responsible use, and I know Bill just did I'm not really sure, to responsible use of social media, and then, of course, breaches in governance standards, one of them being, of course, the Brown Act being the worst thing you can do, but one of the tools is to censure a board if they are violating norms and procedures and protocols. The board would have to vote as a whole to censure a board member. And what that really is a board member would then be removed from any committees that they sit on. That's about the extent of a censure. They still get to sit on the board, they get to go to closed session, all of that stuff, but it's being a bad board member, and you get a slap on the hand, unless you violate Brown Act, and it's egregious. And then it's a report to the AG's office. So it's really about responsibilities, our purpose, our norms, our processes, protocols, and then use of social media, because that became a big thing.
Any questions or comments with the discussion about it?
This is just a check-in. Revision comes next year.
That revision's in January. I checked the governance.
Oh, look at you. Doesn't seem like he wants to comment on this. We did we've all taken courses on this and we know this material.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Just a little comment that I think that there's some things put into our goals that are already stated within our governance, and that maybe those things ought to stay there rather than be a separate item in the goals that we do.
I think a good discussion to have for me, them being in 2 places, it means we're focused. If it's on a goal, we're focused on it and we're highlighting it. We've talked about the fact that the board is going to be changing dynamics very quickly, and that having these standard procedures in place is necessary for future boards, not just holding ourselves accountable. We probably think we do a great job of that, but others might not. And holding future boards accountable. So I think setting the goals.
There's board goals, our board goals that we set based upon our survey are the things that we think that we need a little bit more work on. This stuff that's in the governance handbook is stuff that we abide by on throughout always.
Operating procedures.
Exactly. So the board goals that we set each other is based upon our feedback on the CSBA survey we take. Like maybe we could work a little bit harder in this area, and how do we know we succeeded, that we worked hard on that area? So there's two different things, really, even though they reinforce each other.
And that's why I'm saying, I think there's still some items that we put in goals that really are part of our governance handbook and that we should simply be following. We don't have to set a goal for something that is already expected of us in our governance handbook.
I get what you're saying, but I think if those goals come out of the survey, so that's the discussion when we get to the survey. Because we take the CSBA survey.
Yeah, and there's consensus there that we know what the standard procedures are, but we can still make improvements in this area. We're all agreeing we can do better there, still following all the standard procedures, but taking that, I mean, most of our, when we take those surveys, we're in the green on everything, or blue, yeah, and it's selecting what's the worst of the best, you know what I mean? Because we function healthy together for the most part.
And piggybacking on her before you speak is the fact that I've been on boards where we were mostly red and orange on everything on that survey. So the whole idea was to take the most important aspects of that survey to turn into goals to improve from the red and the orange to get to hopefully a green or blue. Which didn't happen very well. Just
I was, and when we relook at the goals, I think digging into that deeper. And knowing, okay, this is already in our handbook, do we need to include that in the goal, or does it get lost? But because it was its importance, just.
You have something you're considering?
Well, it was more that, I think, getting to your point in terms of what would be our goals versus what's expected from each of us in these behaviors, which are two different things. They should be for both. I mean, yes, they definitely can be on goals, but at the same time, also revisiting it more in terms of not it being a goal, but really a norm of conduct that, and I think that's getting back to Bill's point.
Which are goals can be followed.
These are goals. The governance handbook doesn't state it as goals. They're roles and responsibilities. Their roles and responsibilities, unity of purpose, governance, team culture, which includes the norms, establishing formal structures. So the goals are really not stated as goals in the governance handbook. We state our goals every year based upon the survey on what we want to work on ourselves.
I understand that. What I'm saying is that there's dynamics that are here that maybe we ought to be reviewing more often, because these are the things that we should be doing and don't need to set new goals for them. They should be our responsibility. They should be the procedures that we're using. They should be the strategies and behaviors that we operate under.
So we visit this quarterly. Do you wish to do it every single month? And put it on the calendar every single month?
I guess
Is
if
that what
we were
you're
red,
saying?
if we're not doing it, we should be reviewing. If we're coming up in the colors you were mentioning, we should be doing it.
Right, but so it's set right now on a quarterly basis, so do you want to do it more frequently than quarterly? Is what I'm asking.
Maybe I'm asking something different. Maybe asking that how we go through it, because just to put it on the agenda doesn't mean we're really going through it. For example, we have a new superintendent. There are some different ways that we ought to be operating now that because of her view of things. And so maybe I'm looking at perhaps a deeper dive in this, and then us checking ourselves. Are we following through with the procedures that we say that we have here? The things that we say are going to guide how we govern. Are we doing that?
So that deeper discussion is in January, like Jordan pointed out, where we do the deep dive to really go in and say, is this still something that is important to be in the governance handbook? Let's look at the processes. Do they still abide? So we're right now still in the cycle of this year. So January is really when you're going to, with me board member, to take the deep dive, as you said. And that's when we really go through like the breaches of governance standards say, and really read it and take a look at it and see if it still is pointed discussion or bad behavior.
If I'm hearing you right, I'm not gonna be here for much longer, but my recommendation would be the next time there's a check-in, if any of us are allowed to say, hey, this is the area I want us to focus on. Let's read this together out loud during this time. Let's just remind ourselves, or I don't feel like we're doing very good at this. And hopefully there's enough trust and transparency amongst the future board that you're able to say that. So nobody's gonna stop you, Bill, during the check-in to say, hey, I don't think we're following the board act or the Graham Act. Let's read through this a little bit more. This is where I have a concern about it. Let's talk about it as a team.
I think I'm also wanting this to be proactive as we have a change in the board. Because having come on as a new person, there's things that are kind of been just on my shoulders to learn, if you will. So I want us to be proactive when the board is changing.
Well, and hopefully they'll participate in the trainings that we all participate in, and we can't force them to, because, you know, they're only forced to sit right here during a board meeting, and that's it. But hopefully they'll go to all of those trainings and understand these concepts in depth. And if not, again, during these check-ins, any one of you can say, hey, like, let's read a little bit more.
For example, we could talk about adding into our governance handbook an expectation that we all pursue professional development as we are.
Yeah,
There you go, Jordan.
So that's something that we could
In
look
January,
at change.
and then also during the conversation, during those red and orange years, in the discussion, we had discussion about violation of Brown Act, and as a result of that discussion, we had our attorney come up to do a presentation on Brown Act here, because we had resistance of members going to the Brown Act training. So instead of expecting them to go to Brown Act, we brought Brown Act here. So that's part of the discussion of what you're talking about, is when you go over stuff, how are we doing a good enough job? If not, how can we course correct? Does that mean going to training? Oh, we're not all going to training, then let's bring the training here, even though it might cost us some money.
Dana, I see your mind moving still, so I'm gonna give you a minute to respond.
Over the past several years, we have quarterly reviewed our handbook. And we've taken our annual survey. I guess my thought is, we talked earlier about with the, temperature control, we can do better. I'm very proud of what our board has done and the relationships that we've built. I do think that we can do better. And I also think that, especially with, we will be at least having one new board member on board. And I know some of the struggles that Bill had starting up, three of us all being new. There was, I think, more of a red carpet that was rolled out for us to be able to get onboarded. I think that we can do better. And that's where I'm struggling. I don't want to get into particulars at all, but I do think that there are areas that we can improve upon.
Fair. You can always improve. I agree.
I think the interesting thing is that if you've noticed, I'm probably talking more than I used to, because I'm feeling more like I can. And I think that's part of that educating of new board members that we want to keep doing. so that they can be a voice as soon as they do.
Well, I think naturally part of becoming comfortable with a group that's already established, right? There may only be one, there might be two new people, but there's gonna be established members who, they're gonna have to get, this is part of the human psyche, spending time with them, getting to know them, going to our conferences and trainings hopefully helps. That's when we get to know each other closer, so. But the board could be more intentional, the existing members could be more intentional about it too. I felt very welcomed, but like Dana said, there were three of us coming on at that time, so the dynamic was a little different.
And to Bill's point about him speaking up more, I know there have been times where, whether through interruption or other means, I have not spoken up when I've tried to, just because of not feeling like, just not just at the moment, not having the courage to, and I think being able to have us watch out for interrupting each other or be able to really listen to each other as we speak. I think generally we do it, but sometimes with more controversial issues or depending on the days that any of us have had, there might be times where we are shutting each other down that we need to be careful of.
I actually was able to, before we came to the meeting this week, look at the goals and look at the handbook. And I felt comfortable, I knew how to find them for change. So I just think that it's helpful for us to think that through and just, then, by the way, I felt welcome, just in case you all wonder.
Laura. All right, are we good on this subject? I think that was intentions to move in a positive direction, yeah, okay. 11.2, legislative update report, Board of Trustees. Cindy, what you got for us?
It's relatively short. I actually need input. The Standouts Committee is putting together state and federal platforms. Because the governor's budget had done so many different things for us this year, we need to make some changes. So in listening to state legislative platform, the bullet points were fair and full funding. And we're going to have a discussion on what this board would like to see put into the platform. What are the bullet points? What are your topics? Because I have till October the 5th to get this back to Standup so that they can compile it into a draft that will go to the next Standups meeting. And our next board meeting is not till after that. So the next bullet point was adequate school facilities. The next one was appropriate and consistently applied accountability, which means closing the gap, the excellence gap and increasing graduation rates. Student support, mental and behavioral health services, and school safety. Those were the bullet points, and there's like little things underneath each one.
Is this in our folder?
No, even more than, it's on the website.
Yes, we do have a couple things from you.
Those were not, those are for your information. They're really lengthy. The state bills is every bill that relates to child, home, or education. Each bill it has a notation. If it says enrollment means that it's on the governor's desk. Just if you go, oh, I don't understand why this bill is enrolled, it doesn't mean enrollment in that term. But that is for you to check out. The other one is the federal update, which most of it is the comparison of the House and Senate budgets and the differences. Some areas there are big differences and some that are exactly the same. So that's why, I mean, just it's for your reading. I don't think we need to discuss it. Everything's on the governor's desk. The new legislative process starts in January. We were expecting like half of the assembly to be turned over in November. So when we talk about advocacy, yes, our people may stay the same, but Senator Conleva, whose chair is gone. We know that Assemblymember O'Connell gone. So we are going to have to renew our relationships with the chair and well, we'll see what Senator Joe Bogue decides on her position in the education, Senate education, but we know we're gonna have to work at renewing relationships. What I am proposing is that we definitely take part of legislative day next spring to be part of CSBA in that big advocacy role. But we can talk about that later. So with the state platform, they like to keep it at the 4 or 5 bullet points. One thing that we had spoken about before was transportation. Obviously, transportation has been, I don't want to say totally taken care of, but it's like now at least being funded. Kevin Gordon suggested in the meeting that we put as a bullet point and a push the unduplicated count the way we do it, which is right now by those forms. And because of universal meals, parents are not getting that incentive and that push to fill out the forms. There's some districts worse than ours that those parents are not turning them in and they're seeing their unduplicated count, which might be in 90-something percentile, drop down to 80 or even 78%. So one suggestion is to recalibrate the low income, the unduplicated count, and that is to do it based upon the poverty index. So I think the suggestion was 250% of the poverty index. So that was his suggestion to really push for. Your thoughts? I know that in listening to you, Jordan, because I do listen, is that ADA versus enrollment, changing the form, so the way that funding is to straight enrollment. Maybe that is something that we advocate for in the platform, just listening to that conversation. So anyways, I'm opening it up for discussion on the state platform in terms of what you guys see as important to our district, important for all students in California.
Is infrastructure on that list?
It's school facilities, and there's little points on that part. I think we keep school facilities on there all the time. It is a talking point when Sandaps goes to Sacramento. It is one of their talking points when they speak.
I would agree with you, Amber, in regards to having the opportunity attendance.
And I'm sure that, and I don't know how you guys feel, but the student supports in mental and behavioral health, we know that's going to be an issue for a while, and that we want to see sustainable and continued monetary funding for that, and not having it be like done in 2 years and okay, everybody's all over COVID now. Learning loss is
But
good.
COVID's just an introduction to getting it into schools the way it should
Exactly.
have been, but
Exactly.
it should be always, yes.
So
Mental health obviously
Yes,
stands out, as well as security.
security, school safety.
School safety.
Yeah, that one is wrapped into that.
See, I see them as
Sorry.
two, yeah, I think that's the,
You want
don't let them be wrapped in as one, but can't have a separate.
First thing you mentioned, full and fair funding.
Interesting part is that when we're having a conversation with Senator Leyva, and we started talking about fair and full funding, especially given the budget that we received. She really was not wanting to even talk about it because she felt like you got a lot of money. Let's move on. So that was a really awkward conversation. So part of that story, what Kevin has told us to kind of evolve from, is the whole idea that California used to be in the top 10, number 14 actually in 1970, whatever, in per pupil funding. So how do we change the conversation from fair and full funding to where does California, where are we on the leader of per pupil funding? Do we want to be up there with Massachusetts in the top 10, or do we want to be middling?
Not to mention one-time funding, yes, at this point, things aren't looking as scary as they did a year or two ago, but this is not because we have it built into our structure. It's because of one-time monies that we've received.
So fair and full funding, school safety separate from mental health, mental and behavioral health, EDA versus enrollment, the unduplicated count, recalibrate, and school facilities. That's what I'm hearing us be big proponents of. Jordan's sort of mulling around. No?
So you can already think about, go back over your list and you think.
No,
I
I have literally written nothing down. I'm reading off of the platform bill. I haven't even, nope. I took notes, Jordan, and I knew facilities, and then Kevin's note. That's all. It's not even my notes.
We have until the end of the month, let's say, to get you any feedback if we think of anything else.
Yes. I'm cutting you off this time, Jordan. I'm not going to send reminders. You guys have to do this on your own. But what I'm hearing right now is continue the full and fair funding, adequate both the school facilities, mental and behavioral health, school safety, enrollment over ADA, and then the unduplicated count.
Dr. Fricker, is there something staff might be saying we're missing?
I think the only thing I want to add is that, with the unduplicated count, one thing that was mentioned was that there are certain populations, that tend to be omitted, when they're not included into that unduplicated count. The African Americans are one of those groups, and then there's a couple other groups that, just because they unduplicated to only count one time, and so they don't fall into specific categories, they are missed from the count, but they still have a greater need. And so looking at our population, I think that definitely the EDA is one where we want to be based on enrollment, but also what is really in that unduplicated count and what's really important for districts who have growing populations that are underserved because they won't count in the unduplicated number.
The bill that would have, of course, corrected a little bit of that, which meant that those kids that were not quote unquote performing or whatever on testing and that kind of stuff, they would roll into your LCAP under unduplicated count. And the intention was to capture those student populations that really had been left behind in narrowing the achievement gap. That bill, there was some kind of discussion between the governor and the author of that bill. The bill's been pulled basically and on hold because there was some kind of some discussion and we're not really sure what's going on with that.
Well, and that's unfortunate because the academics are suffering because of reasons we don't even know that should be counted, but we don't know what they are. That seems like the best solution to it. So hopefully that bill will resurface in time or be rewritten by someone else that has a different relationship with a different government.
I think what it is that the intention is to resolve, to focus on the issue in a different manner. I'm not really sure. Nobody knows what the closed door meeting was between the author and the governor. So then, if you guys can give me further feedback or specifics under that, I will send you the link to the 22 platform, and you can see there's a lot of little bullet points under each one. And you can make sure that what you are intending is being captured. If not, let me know. So then the next one is the federal platform that Sandaps is revising, the fair and full funding for special education. Special education is always going to be on the platform until we got the promise of covering our special education expenses by 40%. The next one, of course, is support mental and behavioral issue. school safety is wrapped in that, so Bill, I'm assuming that you want to take that as a separate bullet. Next one is school nutrition and federal school meals program. As you know, the federal government is discontinuing universal meals, correct? So is universal meals, a study has come out and there are less children in the poverty level in the United States after the implementation of universal meals than before it existed. So obviously universal meals is doing its job, which is feeding children and making sure that they're healthy.
So why are they thinking that? There's less poverty because the parents aren't paying to feed the kids.
Do you know, does anybody know if California plans to continue providing full funding for meals? And yes, so from an advocacy standpoint, speaking selfishly, I mean, I want to be able to make sure all of the kids in the nation are able to eat, but from our standpoint, as far as advocacy is concerned, I'd say that there are other things that are more important.
And then another bullet, the last bullet point was investments in broadband access for all and E-rate expansion, which is something that we still struggle with as well on the mountain. So that is something that I think that we all can still say yes. But if you guys, again, I'll send you the platform to have, for me, special education, again, Bill, I did not write anything down. I wanted it to be an open discussion. So special ed for me is a big, huge commitment, as well as school safety.
Yeah, and again, I'm with Bill in regards to those not being clumped with socio-emotional, because safety is covered under physical, physical safety, emotional safety, infrastructure. Like there's so many areas, it's technology. There are so many areas that safety can touch that it deserves its own category.
Last, the two kindergarten bills, the SB 70, which is the mandatory kindergarten, is on the governor's desk, and AB 1973, the offering at least one, if you're over 50%, 55% undue, then you have to offer at least one all-day kinder class on each of your school sites. Those are sitting, waiting to be signed with hundreds of other bills.
I was just gonna ask about SB 490 that I know I've been getting advocacy emails about. That's the one about purchasing local agricultural goods over, or domestic agricultural goods over non-domestic.
I think in the discussion is the fact that it's putting undue burden on school districts to, if Lisa has to take all that time, extra time to do so, is that really worth it?
And the costs are probably greater at certain districts or local.
Yeah, the requirement of that bill is something like, if you're looking at local or non-local food to buy, that local food has to be within 25% of the amount to be non-local food. So districts could be spending up to 25% more is a village requirement, right?
Yeah, the way that it's written is so cumbersome on a district. And I think that's what CSB's position is that encumbering a district in that matter takes away local control.
And nobody would disagree theoretically, that's one wonderful idea about having that imposed upon you.
Not to mention, we've had problems in the past couple of years with distribution channels and just being able to get food, to have additional requirements put on us with not being able to just, get what might be available, could be just punitive for us.
I think the other part of that advocacy was that non-domestic food might work to increase their prices so that it still falls within the acceptable parameters.
only because I have thought about our state legislature and the direction that our state is going from a government standpoint. And there's more than one thing that the state's doing that seems to be taking away the rights and authority of parents. And that's something that troubles me in a bigger picture. Parents should be the lead authority on their students. I think that is something that would be a big concern to parents in our community. That they want to have the authority to make the decisions. I am pleased that they're not moving forward with the mandate on the vaccine, but we were moving down that road very rapidly, and that's kind of the direction that our state government is taking, and that is very troubling to me. That's a totally different subject. That's why I was being quiet, Cindy.
Let's go under the umbrella, so let's have that discussion. I mean, because it plays into our advocacy. Are there bills that have to do with that? And let's make a formal position and write a formal position paper on it. I think that now that the baton is kind of been handed off from Janice Rutherford to Don Rao, that we do have a meeting with her, that we do have some kind of chitty chat, sit down with her, scheduled so that we can introduce her. I mean, she knows our mountains, but it's just what are challenges with our district? Everything from, keeping our schools safe and keeping all 80-something doors of the high school locked, to how do we get HVAC systems, how, not only our school, but other schools like ours, where are those pots of money? Is there somehow, some way in the federal government that we don't see?
And having parents come tonight was wonderful, but it's not common. And, but I've talked personally with, I think, sitting here many times about my frustrations with our lack of parental involvement. There are some great PTAs, absolutely. There are handfuls of parents who are very involved, but we don't get a lot of participation of people using their voices here, which is a very appropriate place to do it, or a time with trustees. Unfortunately, when it comes to election, we know that a parent didn't run to be on the board this time around. I'm the only parent of current student on the board currently, and next time there won't be one. That's disappointing to me. So where we do have places to have voices, I think it's important for us to help highlight and raise that voice. And, parents have a lot of responsibilities. I know what it's like to be, the primary caregiver or breadwinner, and also be doing things in the community and doing PTA and being on the board and all of that. It's a lot. So I'm not, bashing parents in any kind of way. I'm saying our responsibility, because they're not able to be here, they're not able to come to these meetings all the time, or they're not able to run for a board seat, is to write those papers, get them out to them, get them signatures, and send them on our way. I think that's our responsibility to do as a board, because they can't be as impactful in this way as they should be.
I agree with you, Natalie, and also appreciate what Cindy said a moment ago as far as inviting Congressman Rao Supervisor Rao to come here or to meet with us. I think one of the things that was apparent to me when I was traveling with my own kiddos when they were doing athletics, CIF through the various, high schools down the hill, most of them, I think all of them, were newer facilities. And I think in terms of having group advocacy through stand-ups and the like, oftentimes we're in a unique situation. So if there's a way to be able to gain visibility of the unique problems that we're dealing with here, the older structures that we're dealing with here, being able to get a walk through. We go to Indian Springs, it's a beautiful campus, and the kids would go down to play tennis there, so with my own kids, and seeing these brand new facilities and state of the art, this and that, where in some ways we're starting from a negative, instead of at a neutral point, we're starting at a negative and trying to be able to build our own capacity. And I think the visual of seeing where we're at could be very powerful with our own advocacy.
I think we just need to make sure that maybe we tie something in, Karen Gray, our our CSBA District 16 director, made a suggestion that we invite a legislator up here for some kind of look at what this is, whether it's a program or whatever, and then we can have a conversation along with that visit. So I think we need to look for an opportunity for her to see a program or to view whatever, but we have that conversation, and it's very focused conversation. Karen recommended us to have our ducks in a row, so to speak, because the whole point is to what is our priority in that particular discussion with her. And we don't want to overwhelm her and just vomit all over her everything that we need. So we want to make sure that it's pointed, but that we tie it into something, whether it's East End DOE or CTE at the high school or whatever it is that we tie it into that. Makes it a better visitation.
Really good thoughts. I guess partly what I'm saying is that this board has to help be a better voice for parents on behalf of parents. There are bills sitting on the governor's desk right now that really don't support parental authority. Frankly, it bothered me deeply when the CSBA came out immediately after the governor said he was going to mandate vaccines, and immediately they came out in support of that position. That really troubled me. It frankly caused me to have significant question about CSBA and how they represent us, because I'm one who is very concerned that parents have the ultimate authority with their children, not the government. I don't want the state, and that includes us, controlling children. I want the parents to have authority over their children.
Again, in the discussion in Sandags and actually in the delegate assembly in May, our little caucus, our District 16 caucus, that concern by a couple of different board members in our county was the fact that they were really unhappy with CSBA to come out so quickly.
It was like the same day almost. And I'm like, no, you don't know, you do not know enough medically to make that. And to say you're going to make that mandate and support that mandate against parents. So it's just, it's an issue, it's a broader issue that I'm saying that I want us to, at least I'm going to be one who wants to try to work for parental rights and for parental authority over state authority.
Which begs the question, I don't remember which bill it's going to be that'll be on the ballot in November. They're calling it the San Bernardino secession. So, and going to the back meeting for the combined map, and it was explained by Dennis Rutherford that no, they don't necessarily think that, that's a ballot option necessarily, but it is worth pursuing in terms of showing how San Bernardino County is not getting their fair share of the resources that the state is providing. So whether that might be also something for us to think about in terms of looking at San Bernardino representing us and being our voice to the state in terms of resourcing.
Yeah, it's actually, the way Janice says it, and if that's true, it is about trying to make sure that our county is getting the fair dollars that it should be getting. That does include education.
And being a voice in terms of Sacramento being so far away from us and not necessarily governing in a way that our families, our communities wish to be governed.
So is that the kind of thing that we may want to take a position on?
On which thing?
The bill that San Bernardino County has put forth, and I'm gonna say it's okay, but don't quote me. Yeah, there's two, but it's really meant to say that this county is not getting its fair dollars from the state government.
Can I just ask a procedural question before people get their personal opinions on moving forward with that? What is the proper way to do that if the board did want to take the official stand on something on it?
It has to go on the agenda item.
Okay.
You can't take a decision right now because this is just a report. So it has to be agendized and then discussed and then voted on. I don't know if I don't know. I think that's something to look at if we are, as a board, allowed to even do that kind of backing of in support of.
The board can write a letter of support, anytime it does have to have an agenda and agreeable, voter majority of the board in order to do that,
So at the end of this meeting, when we have items to add to the agenda, if somebody would like to add that to the next agenda, you could go ahead and mention it then. And then we can gather all of whatever information and data we need to have a thorough discussion about it at the next board meeting.
And that would be the same for any bill that we want to take a formal position on.
You good with that? Anything else for the
No, just,
legislative update?
you have, I'm going to give you till October 1st to give me your comments on the state and federal platforms so that I can be sure that I can get it in by October 5th. Jordan, October 1st.
I'm satisfied so far, but I just want to mull it over.
Thank you. 13.1 Equity and Social Justice Committee report. Bill,
11.3.
what did I say?
13.1, but that's okay.
I'm dyslexic at this point in time.
Yeah,
Almost
exactly.
knowing everything's backwards. 11.3 Equity and Social Justice Committee report, Board of Trustees. But if you want to skip to 13.1, I can.
Thank you, Madam President. So Dr. Fricker and I have had conversations and we are planning an additional meetings to go over each one of the recommendations. The cabinet has met and discussed some of the recommendations, but we really need to look at each one and say, okay, what are the ramifications? Who does this need to go to? What detailed steps need to be taken? So that is in process. In conversation with Dr. Fricker and with the cabinet, we would like to suggest continuing the subcommittee and establishing the dates for the meeting, monthly meetings. So by the way, Charles is sitting back in the back, so Rick Torrey's here, so we're really wanting to continue.
So half of you are here.
Well, a couple of us, Cindy and I are here, and so 4 of us out of the 12 or so. So one of our students already who's in school still, already we talked this week, and she wants to continue on, so we want to continue that. The cabinet was suggesting a name change, and we really haven't discussed that, so I'm going to leave that up for our further discussion with Dr. Fricker and myself and come back. So at this point, that's my update, is let's keep the subcommittee together and then reform for those who have left, like Zach graduated, so he could, if he wanted to, come back and be an alumni member of it, but we then need to get a new student member.
Checking in with Michelle and see if she's.
Michelle Murphy.
Current, right?
Our current rep, Zach's position, having.
Yeah, I think we ought to look and see who other possibilities are. Yeah, Zach ended up being, because he was one of the ones who offered, and the person we did ask then had conflict with our dates. Any questions?
Thank you for keeping it going. The good stuff came out of it, and there's more work to do there too, so thank you.
All right, 12.0 public hearing, 12.1 procedures for public hearing. Public hearings are required on specific items such as the local control accountability plan and budgets. Persons who wish to address the governing board on a matter set for a public hearing must complete a goldenrod speaker form and submit it to the executive secretary, to the superintendent, before the meeting is called to order. Because no goldenrods were submitted, I'm not going to read through decorum or the rest of this. I'm just going to move along to 12.2, which is the public hearing. Educational services, approval of the public hearing for pupil textbooks and instructional materials, compliance for the fiscal 2022-2023 year. Fiscal impact, 3,000 or 35,000 in lottery and instructional materials. The public hearing is called to order at 8:55 p.m. No audience members. The public hearing is closed at 8:55 p.m. Yeah, we made it back. Beautiful. 13.0. Consent action. 13.1 personnel services. Approval of the personnel page. Fiscal impact to be determined. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
No?
Seconded.
Jordan, any discussion? Seeing
Do you
none.
want somebody who's in the audience to say hello, right?
Oh, do we want to do it?
We'll want to vote first, right?
Yeah, we should go
We
first.
should vote first.
Because it's not real
So
until
we
we
might
vote.
want to discuss him or something.
Do we want to wait for Cindy as well?
We can, I was gonna do it without her because I assumed it would be okay, but we can wait. Here she is.
And then Brian will have you come up and you can introduce yourself after they vote.
We're gonna vote first. Because we might not need you to come up and introduce yourself.
All the time.
Hey Cindy, we're voting on the personnel page. We're voting on 13.1. Bill made a motion, Jordan second. Would you like any discussion on the personnel page? No. Seeing none, calling for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, and we will now take readings.
We're very proud to announce the new principal of Grand High School, and so if you can please introduce yourself, we welcome you to our district, and we're so proud and glad to have you. So, can I say a few words?
Thank you very much. My name is Brian Williamsey. I'm a Marine graduate. I have 4 students in the district, 3 in PH and 1 in Charles Sutton. I spent 14 years working in San Diego City at the Springs High School, actually. And then moved on to Bear Valley High School District, where I've been assistant principal at Bear High School. So I had the opportunity to come back here, and I'm very grateful for that. And thank you guys. I look forward to working with you.
And your reception is tomorrow, so that we back here to come up.
Thank you. 13.2 personnel services, approval for teacher Ryan Weisberg, River World High School to teach 1 athletic period in accordance with California Education Code 44258.7 B. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Cindy?
Second.
Bill? Any discussion? We all know, people are reaching. No discussion. Calling for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 13.3 personnel services, approval of the paid internship credential program agreement between Brighton and the World Unified School District and National University. What was that? Physical impact none.
So moved.
Cindy,
Seconded.
Jordan. Any discussion? Seeing none, calling for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 13.4 Personnel Services, approval of the MOU between CSEA and River Rural Unified School District to increase the hours per day to 6 hours per day for the 2022-2023 school year. Fiscal impact $16,000, personnel general fund.
So moved.
Cindy,
Second.
Bill, any discussion?
Just to note that that's to increase the instructional assistance for special education. This wasn't specified in the first part of it.
Thank you. They currently are at 5 hours, and we will be moving up to 6 hours. Seeing no discussion, calling for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 13.5 Personnel Services, approval of the internship agreement between National University and River Rural Unified School District effective August 16th, 2022. Fiscal impact none.
So moved.
Cindy. Second,
Second.
Bill, any discussion?
Is this the same as 13.3? Is it a repeat? It says approval and internship agreement between.
Because one had a date and one didn't.
No, the other one had a date in the middle.
On
effective-
13.3?
Yeah, on 13.3, in the description, it says effective August 16th, 2022. And the other, and this one also says,
Yeah.
It could be,
Okay,
because
well-
I was given 2 different ones with more.
well, we're just gonna vote on it anyways, just to
Okay,
make
just
sure.
in
I just
case,
wanted to make sure. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. No.
Calling for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 13.6 Personnel Services, approval of the consultant agreement between River Rural Unified School District and Shaw HR Consulting to provide accommodations consulting services effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025. Fiscal impact to be determined, general fund personnel. Various
So
accounts.
So moved.
Cindy,
Second.
Bill. Any discussion?
Just for clarification, is this an open-ended contract or where does that TBD figure come into play?
I had spoke with Morgan and he said that he just had the sample quote. I'm not sure on the TBD.
If you could explain, Jenny.
At different times, sometimes in a workers' comp realm, that's why I would say personnel, I mean, the various accounts. And sometimes on the personnel, we might not know what an employee can need an accommodation to work or not. So to say we might have 5 employees that need various accommodations from doctor's notes or permanent disabilities, or we might have 0.
Have we used this company in the past?
Yes.
And when we do have a request for accommodation, we have an interactive meeting to determine if we actually issue those accommodations. So that's what this is provided as well.
Do we usually do 3-year contracts with this company?
I haven't seen a 3-year contract with this company, although sometimes we use this company and our JPA pays for it because it's, you know, they have a contract and sometimes the district has to get paid for them, just all depends on it, how it's a particular case. So, and then we also do some accommodations in-house where we don't use a consultant, but some are tricky and we would need, you know, that professional services or a job function analysis to be done. And so, you know, we would probably, I mean, there's other consultants that do this. They're kind of known as one of the better ones in the business.
And you have experience with.
Yeah, and so, personnel may work with them separately than business does on the risk side.
Is it feasible with something like this to have a not to exceed figure, but TBD is a little disconcerting?
I guess you don't,
we would have to probably, if we ever have a tricky year, and we would have to say, okay, how many do we do in a year, 3 and 5, put a price to that,
Times it by 3 for the 3-year contract.
yeah. I don't know if, Morgan had how many we anticipated.
We didn't have a discussion.
What would be the impact of us tabling this until next month, where we would have more, our next meeting, more information?
Our service is already effective with them.
Because I'm not involved when they're on the personnel only side, so just hallway type talk, I do think that they are working with an accommodation that's necessary right now. So
they're currently working.
no, not this person, but I think there's a need.
I need for it, gotcha. Currently.
Jenny, why does it say sample? It doesn't, there's a.
I'm
On the
gonna have
line,
to
it actually
look
says
at-
independent contractor agreement, but on our notes here, it says sample.
Yes, and I did question, but it's because he just didn't have a contract.
So we're approving a contract that we don't have.
But isn't this a contract that we have?
It's a sample contract, so in order to enter into the official contract, we have to come back anyway. So we could table it until October and then bring it back as the official contract. If we do have any other personnel side, I don't know about that, whether we do have any accommodation requests on the personnel side, we would have to handle that through different means, sometimes that would be for our attorney office would also have a consultant on it. We would need that for interactive process for HR.
So if we could table it and get the actual contract for October, that would be wonderful. And I mean, hypothetically, if we had 5 or 15 throughout this period, I mean, would you feel safer if there was a 100,000 max, or do you understand that, like, if they're only going to use the services when they need it? It's not like we're going to just be using these services, because the services are you.
I'd like to move to table until we have a contract in front of us.
Right. I was just saying, also, what else do we need to prepare to make a good decision? Do we just need the contract, or do we need any other information to feel comfortable?
Some kind of dollar figure would be a good thing, including, it could be a not to exceed. If there's a leeway that is needed and required.
Or is there an hourly rate that
I
we're
move to
agreeing?
table, Madam President.
I understand, but
No, a motion to table, you need to take action on.
I make a motion to table, and I second.
okay. Would you like to
I
have a
said,
discussion
my motion-
about this
You
motion?
can, but that's what you have to do, is you discuss the tabling motion. And my motion to table is to table until we have a contract. With a contract, what's in these asked for, you'll have numbers. So I move that we table until we have a contract.
And I'm a second, and so now we can have a discussion about that. And what I would like to add to that is that the contract includes an hourly rate. And is there any other information that somebody needs to feel comfortable making a decision other than the contract?
I would feel more comfortable if there was some sort of a not to exceed figure.
Proposed to us.
Anything else? Just in terms of part of the discussion, just wanting to be able to make sure that we understand what the impact might be of us tabling it, and then we're not going to create issues in the next month of us not having this approved. Are we creating a problem?
The only thing that we would do is go through another means if we did have to have an interactive process on the HR side. And I think it's pretty much the same on the risk management side for business. So usually through our legal team, they would have consulting services. Should have that. They may get a little bit more than what this rate is, I'm not quite sure, but we've got options to cover us.
it depends on what the contract comes back with. The sample contract has all of their hourly rates outlined. And those are, it seems pretty high, how it compares to our legal fees, hourly rates.
Just, yeah, I would feel more comfortable with having more definition around it, rather than it being kind of a like, you know, I trust the folks that are involved here, but just so that we are able to have some idea of the nature of the finding, you know, of what we're approving, that this is very open-ended.
And maybe if on a Friday update, you can just give us a history of how much we've paid them for services over the past, whatever, 2 years or however long we've utilized them.
I might not, be able to do that in 12 hours.
No, I didn't mean, but before the next October meeting, we should be able to get that info. Yeah, please don't worry about it tomorrow.
Since this is a sample contract, therefore not a contract, I don't see how it would affect anything right now in the meantime. And we've had a contract with them, right? So those numbers would probably still be appropriate for the time being until they present a real contract. Am I wrong?
No, not necessarily.
We just haven't had to use them since our old contract expired.
So let's just call for the vote, let's move on, because we're tabling it.
All right, call for the votes table. All in favor? Any opposed? It's tabled. 13.7, educational services, approval of the resolution for pupil textbooks and instructional materials compliance for the fiscal year 2022-2023. Fiscal impact, $35,000, lottery.
So moved.
Cindy?
Seconded,
Jordan? Any discussion?
this one looks exciting.
Seeing none, calling for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. .8, educational services, garage training simulators for CTE pathways. Fiscal impact, $249,725 from the Strong Workforce Program SWP grant. So moved. Cindy?
Seconded,
Jordan? Any discussion?
this one is exciting.
This is grant, friends. Sounds like a lot of money, and it is, but it's a grant. Calling for the vote, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 13.9, educational services, approval of the course elective, office occupations /office clerk for the 2022 and 2022 through 2023 school year. Fiscal impact, none.
So moved.
Second.
Bill and Cindy, any discussion? Also fun to add an elective. Calling for the vote, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 13.10, business services, approval of resolution number 2022/23-02 for adopting GANN limit. Does fiscal impact, none.
So moved.
Second.
Bill and Cindy, any discussion? Seeing none, calling for the vote.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Action item 13.11, business services, approval of the unaudited financial report for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. Fiscal impact, none.
So moved.
Bill?
Seconded.
Anna? Any discussion? Thank you, Jenny, for your work.
Thank you.
Calling for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 14.0, calendar. Items pulled for separate vote and discussion to be taken into consideration during agenda items 15.0. Would anybody like to pull any of the 14s? Beautiful. We would ask for a motion for 14.1, 14.2, 14.3, 14.4, 14.5, 14.6, 14.7, 14.8, 14.9, 14.10, 14.11, 14.12, 14.13, 14.14, 14.15, 14.16, 14.17, and 14.18.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Cindy and Bill? Any discussion? Shouldn't be. Calling for the vote, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 16.0, governance team future agenda items of planning. 16.1, time allotted for board of trustees to request agenda items for future meetings. As this was discussed earlier, Bill, you want to add that?
Well, I have a couple.
Okay.
One is, I think that we ought to have some time when we actually go over what is our protocol for extreme temperatures. Just what is that? And how might would it be beneficial to us to monitor temperatures in classrooms? When it's hot outside, we know it's hot inside. So I'm not sure whether that's an appropriate expenditure of funds, but I would like to look at the protocol, because I was even wondering myself, should we have considered a heat day? I don't know, but so I personally don't know what our protocols are, and I think it'd be good to have it covered by staff.
Fair, and yeah, it is upon staff to do. I don't know if it being an agenda item for the board is necessary, but maybe, I mean, maybe there's
He wants to report.
a report, you want to report on it. Okay. When does it seem like an appropriate timeline to get a report together for us would be?
We can have the next board meeting.
Bill, I wonder if, what your proposition, are you talking specifically about extreme heat events or extreme weather events?
I think we already have some things for snow, but I don't know what we have for heat. So especially wanting to know about extreme heat events. Extreme weather events would be appropriate.
I would say weather, just thinking historically, I remember there has been school cancellation because of extreme wind. I was just many, I don't know, a couple decades ago. But I think if we encompass weather into that report, I think it would be worthwhile. Think about all the different extremes.
And I do think that this could require some kind of board action at some point in the future, particularly if we're going to support some type of, like was suggested tonight, a modified schedule, or would we support not having school one day?
Well,
I'm just looking at.
yeah, I think you're right. And there are kind of tweaks to figure out which ones would require board actions and which ones wouldn't, right? The superintendent has the right to call school off without the board's approval at that moment for a snow day. Should be the same case for any extreme weather day or extreme heat day. So that might not be a part of it that needs a board approval, but modified days and approving that, does that affect our school calendar and, those types of things, and what was that?
It'll affect the instruction. It'll affect the instructional units.
Yeah, and how we navigate that, so.
And then how do you make them up? And dealing with community concerns in terms of what, if it's left, planning for what they might be able to do with their kids and just the complications that will ensue.
Right. So you're right, there's parts of the discussion that might need agendizing down the road, but we're so early in developing solutions that we just need to hear what's the current plan and, what are some ideas for improving it in that report.
Just to touch on that slightly, though, I think there'd be challenges with, say, shortened or calling a school day because of extreme heat, because usually it comes as a heat wave. So then you're talking about, 2 weeks potentially, no school. So I think there's complications that I think we ought to let admin work their way through.
Which is what I'd like to hear.
Perfect. Yeah,
I know there was another.
I know there was another topic.
The other topic, and I was trying to research online, but I've been at a board meeting and unable to do the research. And is what is the major that is before us? And I'm sorry, I cannot remember. There's A and there's BE. I believe it's major A. That is the one that they're talking about succession, which that's not really the point. It is about proper funding from the state. And so if we can agendize that ballot measure, so we see, do we want to have an opinion? I'm not even saying we should. I'd like to see, do we want to have an opinion?
Okay. Anyone else?
Maybe that, we even invite even Janice Rutherford to come back up and tell us about the major and why we might want to support it.
And I would say we have to have that on the October meeting, that discussion.
Right, given the fact that the election is in November. And if they're prioritizing the time, do you think that putting that discussion on October and then the extreme weather one, the next board meeting would be okay? So we spread out some of the stuff that we have to cover. Are you okay with that? Or would you rather them both now?
No, I was actually thinking longer for the extreme weather, but Dr. Fricker was the one who offered next month, so.
Okay, so
I do.
maybe push that off to November. Thank you.
Just, I think it was either in the October, November meeting also to discuss summer school and planning for 2023 summer school. It was something that we had brought up before as far as having that be a discussion for what the plan means before we got too far into the school year.
So would Heather be able to do a report for us on kind of what the ideas are there? She just wants to.
Yeah,
Is that, I mean, that to me be appropriate, correct? I'm sorry.
I think
I believe this was something that was already requested that we could agenda
right.
a meeting or two ago.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, maybe you start having ideas in the fall, but then real planning begins after the holiday break. So if you want to plan like what classes or what this is going to happen, maybe that happens in January. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that having it on a fall agenda when there's just conversations and not actual, okay, we need this and we need this and we need this and we have, for our conversations in the fall, we're gonna have a cute little music class, or let's put the music class, because we have a teacher committed to that. So do you want more specifics? Because I don't think we're gonna get what you want until after the holiday break.
I want to make sure that we're starting to think in that direction. And I think, Dr. Fricker, were you gonna add something to that?
I think we talked, my first meeting with counselors is in October, and that's really when they kind of surface and they breath then from the start of the school year. So it's really a time to debrief, the start of the school year, but also what the needs are currently sitting students, what the needs are for the students. And so that's gonna help us actually put together whatever our academic program would be for the summer. We probably wouldn't solidify courses until you write something in January, February timeframe. And that's usually the time frame. I don't know exactly what you did last year, but February is usually the time where you're going to go out to staff to see, or begin to go out to staff to see where do you have interest. And actually wanting to do some school classes. And then we have plenty of time to market with families. And then also, if we have a need, and we don't have the staffing, to go with it, then what other programs do we use to satisfy that need? Online programs. So it's kind of a general timeline. So
I think what would work for me is, by the end of the year, maybe having that, you just mentioned the timeline, but maybe having a written in an update, this is what the plan is for the timeline, not the plans for the summer school, but this is when we're gonna have each of the various deliverables of the plan. And then potentially then in winter, January, February, like you mentioned, at that point, maybe being able to have some sort of a better presentation of this is what we're planning for summer school for 2023.
And I found, just so you know, the San Bernardino County advisory measure is measured EE. And it is an advisory vote only.
So going back to clarifying the actual plan for summer school, I would suggest February as concluded on the February meeting. Okay.
Anything else for future agenda items or? Marvelous. 17.0 future meeting dates, regular board meeting, October 20th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. That will be, is that gonna be the new deal?
Yeah.
What? Yay. River World Unified School District, this is gonna be the new district office. 24740 Samarit's Way, Crestline 92325. Regular board meeting, November 17th, 2022, 5:30 p.m. Also at the new district office, 24740 Samarit's Way, Crestline, California 92325. We do not need to recess to close session. 19.0 adjournment. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
In a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Calling for the vote, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And that motion passes unanimously.